I love that 30-second countdown versus the 5 seconds in Riverside, Brett.
Yeah, 30 seconds is just so much more dramatic.
Well, this is day 2 of the Sunapee Scramble weekend. Yesterday, we did, I think, 10 or 15 athlete interviews, got the hype going, figured out some storylines. Awesome day. Joined again by colleagues Lauren Gregory, Brett Hornig, and guest Richard Bolt. We're about an hour away from the start of the VK races. Lot to talk about in this hour. Richard, would you mind introducing yourself and talking about your role in the U.S. Mountain Run Organization, USATF organization, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Finn. And thank you, Brett and Lauren. Glad to
Absolutely.
be part of the broadcast here. And appreciate you guys putting this together to bring more attention to the USATF mountain running and trail running program, what we're doing, both nationally and in this case, helping select a team for the World Championships. So again, my name is Richard Bolt. I'm the team leader of the U.S. Mountain and Trail Running team. Been doing this for about 23 years, and the program has grown enormously in that time. I think the profile of the World Championships has grown a lot in that time. And most recently, there's been a convergence under World Athletics of mountain and trail running into a larger multi-day single World Championships. Historically, and Lauren knows this, having been a member of past teams, the World Mountain Running Championships, organized by the World Mountain Running Association, has been holding championships since the mid-'80s. More recently, the International Association of Ultra Runners and the International Trail Runners Association, since 2015, has had a World Trail Running Championship. So now they've come together as the sport has grown and there's more attention and money in it. And so the inaugural combined championships was last fall in Thailand. This will be the second annual World Mountain and Trail Running Championships in June in Austria. And so the race today will select some of the athletes for what's called the vertical mountain running event. It's essentially a VK, although VK is a trademarked term by Sky Running. It's basically the same concept, steep, short, uphill race. Unlike Sky Running, poles are not allowed in mountain running. So that adds an extra challenge under the in the really steep sections of the course, or if there's mud or any kind of snow or anything like that. So what I do is I help manage a group called the Selection Committee, which has been appointed by the USATF Mountain Trail Executive Committee. So we helped about 5 months ago develop a selection criteria, which today's race was a part of, which tomorrow's race is also a part of, which Lake Sonoma 50 mile was a part of for our 80K long trail team, which the formidable 50K was part of, the short trail, and next weekend's Breakneck Point Trail Marathon will be the final selection race. And we'll be taking 48 athletes and 6 staff members early next month to Austria, a mix of athletes who have either qualified at last fall's World Championship, like Allie McLaughlin earned her spot that way, for those people who earn automatic spots in selection races, and to a very few athletes who will earn the final spots through a resume selection process. So that's sort of the process. That's my role. And yeah, I think we're looking forward to the racing, because this is ultimately like what we all really want. I think the athletes want it, the staff want it. Like, we would ultimately love to have every spot picked in head-to-head racing. And that's really only been possible in the mountain running discipline for the past 10 years or so, because we've been able to get the very best athletes in this discipline together on the same day to race head-to-head.
Well, Richard, thank you for that introduction. It's great to have you here. We're really excited to spend the next hour with you. I'm sure all of us have many questions. The first question I want to ask you is something you touched upon briefly at the beginning of that. You said that in the 20 plus years that you have been affiliated with this organization and these teams, you've noticed a pretty continual rise in profile, rise in popularity, rise in excitement among athletes and fans. I'm sure there are a lot of reasons for why that's the case, but what are some of the key reasons that stick out to you for the growth?
Well, I think first and foremost, a rising tide lifts all boats. I think that we see this across all of different organizations that are helping promote the sport nationally and globally. Xterra has been doing it with their Trail Run Nationals for 20 plus years. More recently on a global scale, we have things like the Golden Trail Series, great event. Skyrunning off and on in the US with the US Skyrunner Series, but more consistently with their sort of Skyrunning World Series. And then there's just sort of like some of the premier, global trail running events, UTMB, obvious example. Western States, same thing. Higher profile sponsors at Western States than say 20 years ago. It's much more of a grassroots race. Now it's a lovely grassroots race with a huge global audience. It's really unique that way. And so sort of in that context, USA Track and Field, which is the governing body of running sports in the US, has long had a mountain, ultra, and trail running component, although it gets much less attention and significantly less funding than what's called high performance. High performance sports would be the Olympic sports, track and field, race walking, road marathon. But I think increasingly, both because USA Track and Field and World Athletics recognize the growth and opportunity in mass participation sports, sort of starting with the marathon, the road marathon, and more recently with trail running, they want to be involved. And so, we within USA Track and Field Mountain Ultra Trail program are seeing sort of more support from the national office, a growing budget, thanks in large part to the leadership of Nancy Hobbs, who founded the USATF MUT program, who founded the American Trail Running Association in 1996, and now most recently World Athletics. And they're like, we want a piece of this. And I think Seb Bode deserves a lot of credit for that. Being a former elite athlete, he recognizes the opportunity, and he wants to invest in a program where the eyes already are. And so, yeah, I think it's things like that that are helping the program.
Just one more question for me, and then I'll turn it over to Brett and Lauren. This is an interesting year because everything sort of got backed up after COVID. You're turning around on a very short time horizon after the championships in Thailand last year. Can you talk about the challenges getting everything in order before Austria this year, and maybe some of the benefits of having more time before the next championships in 2025?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a question that we've been struggling with. We knew this was coming, but immediately after Thailand, which was November, we recognized it because we didn't want to put together a selection criteria until we knew where the next World Championships is, right? Because like that, everything goes backwards from there. It's like, where's it going to be? What are the courses going to be like? How much? We obviously priority one is to give the athletes as much lead time as possible, but we knew that wasn't going to be practical in this case. So we had to develop a selection criteria in very little time, in like literally weeks. I think if you look at the published selection criteria, it's like December 6th, we pulled this thing together. We had to get the buy-in of some of the other stakeholders. Race directors are obviously very important to a selection process. The USATF MUT doesn't want to do this in a vacuum, knows it can't be a successful program unless all stakeholders are really on board. So we got really good support from Lake Sonoma, Formidable, Breakneck Point, agreeing to be selection races, trying to put some promotional elements in place, spread the word to elite athletes. So other members of the U.S. team staff, Tom Hooper, Paul Kirsch, Carol, Jason, Anita, others, really did a lot of legwork to socialize the program and to let a lot of the as many top American athletes as possible, be they USATF members or not. We want to get them to be part of the selection process, to put their hat in, be it showing up to a selection race or submitting a resume. USATF membership, figure that out later, right? But the most important thing is to have the very best American athletes, interested in the team, apply for the team, make the team. We'll dot the I's and cross the T's later.
I got to ask one more question. It's a bit of a subjective one, and I know that there's no right or wrong answer here, but where do you fall on the spectrum of having a team that's totally based on resume versus these exciting race in ticket opportunities here at races like Sunapee, or some mixture? Where do you fall and why?
I think it depends, right? I think what drives it is what's practical. I think ideally it would be great to have a single selection race and spots are picked there. But I think through the USATF MUP program and team selection over the last 20 years, we know that's not going to work. We're not going to get some of the very best. Jim Walmsley, living in France, can't come to a selection race.
Right.
We want Jim Walmsley on the team. Yes, please. Right. But we've had a little more experience and success with mountain running, and I think that's easier because you can do a mountain race, especially an uphill race, every weekend. Top guys, that are good at hour-long efforts can do 52 races a year. We can't ask a 50-mile athlete to do that. That's not practical. And so I think right now I would say both. We need both right now, the way the program stands in mountain running and trail running, if we really want the best athletes. So we've tried to develop a hybrid strategy to do that, but we're not going to know till afterwards. But I think it's going to be really easy to kind of look back at the team and be like, yeah, coulda, shoulda, woulda. Like, okay, maybe the field was weak at this selection race. Maybe we shouldn't have had as a selection race. Maybe we should have had more resume spots available. But hindsight's 2020. But we have to make hard decisions in advance, not knowing what athletes are going to show up to what races. So I think we need to be sensitive to what's practical. We need to be sensitive to what the athletes' needs are, and do our best to put together some kind of hybrid that's going to give us the very best results at the World Championships.
I'll turn it over to my colleague Lauren here. Lauren, what questions do you have for Richard?
Yeah, I mean, I know that the vertical is a new addition to the mountain running scene, I guess at the world level. So what motivated you all to change to the platform this year of having it back-to-back days rather than like last year doing Whiteface the up and down one weekend and then Loon the following weekend? What went into that decision?
That's a great question, Lauren. And so I think there's a couple of things going on. I think one is we look at trends in the sport. We see really successful events like Broken Arrow doing multiple races over multiple days. We see sort of the festival aspect of mountain and trail running being really successful. We haven't really seen that to speak of in New England. But we know that New England has some long-standing, very successful mountain running races. The New England Mountain Running Series was founded almost 30 years ago now. There's been some mountain running races that have been consistently held, from call it April to October across New England, but they've never done back-to-back days. So I think it was a little bit like, putting heads together with people like Tom Hooper, people like Paul Kirsch, experienced race directors in New England that have done mountain races, and say, hey, we also have this accelerated timeline. Maybe it just makes more sense. We've got athletes that are flying to the East Coast to do one race. We can probably handle back-to-back days. Let's give it a try. So I think it was more like, kind of taking a little bit of a flyer on this, seeing that like there are trends that show it's possible, like at Broken Arrow, to do a VK one day and then turn around and do a 26 or a 52K the day after that. Sky running, it's been a staple of sky running programs. Do a VK on a Friday, do a longer race on a Saturday or Sunday. So, why not with our program?
Do you think that it'll help the athletes be more competitive at Worlds? Because I know a lot of European races do it like this also. And if they're who we're trying to compete with, I guess, then are you thinking that that will help us or the athletes better prepare for Worlds?
Yeah, maybe. I think it's a little bit hard to say. Like, I think what we don't know yet, at least in the context of, mountain running within the federation system, sort of aside from sky running, is like how much specialization is there going to be? Are we going to really see like really kind of like tuned and dedicated VK athletes or vertical mountain running athletes? And is that going to be a different set of people than do up down races, right? Because if we look at the other model to look at is track and field, right? Like track athletes do this all the time. It's like a 400 race, like an 800, do 100 or 200 in a, 4x100, something like that. So, granted, like our races are significantly longer than that, but I think that there's some utility in looking at the track and field model, just multi-day events, and maybe it's possible to like do even more, right? Like why not have a 3 or 4 day, U.S. mountain and trail running championships with a vertical, an up down mountain, and a trail or two, and just get a lot of people to come to one place. But I think we have to take baby steps, and this was a pretty easy, obvious one to do.
Very interesting. Yeah, absolutely.
Richard, one follow-up on that. I know that the folks that we interviewed yesterday appeared to have fairly diverse competitive backgrounds, different scenes, different types of racing. I think that what you said about specialization is very interesting, and I would assume that it goes that route over time. Are you already seeing evidence of that, like right now? Like, are we seeing athletes in today's race that you think over time are going to be known as like VK specialists, for example?
It's hard to say, right? Like, because there's also sort of like the other incentives that are in place. Like, if you're really good at VK, and why not do both races if you can have 2 paydays? So it's like, yeah, okay, you could specialize, but like, yeah, you could just get some low hanging fruit if you look at the field and you look at your competitors in the next day's up down race and like, yeah, I can make some money there, or I can make a second team there. But we also have to sort of like, we're going to have to manage this going forward, because we can have athletes who qualify for 2 teams, and then they may decide at Worlds like, what, I only want to do 1 race, or I've got an injury I'm nursing and I don't want to do the up down because it's kind of dangerous and I think I'm going to exacerbate this injury, and I'm a professional athlete, this is my bread and butter, this is how I make money, I don't want to risk the rest of my season by like exacerbating an injury. But yet here's an athlete who earned the right to compete in both, and they tell me as a team leader like, I don't really want to I can't make the decision until 2 days before. I think that I owe it to the athletes and to the integrity of the selection process to not interfere with that. And, that's not always a popular choice, because then there's that person's teammates who are like, well, okay, they're just going our medal chances for a team, So I think there's a lot of different priorities, a lot of different incentives at play, and we just have to balance those things to kind of do what's best for the athletes and for the program.
Brett, what do you got?
I was curious, I guess, you mentioned a lot, the kind of some of the challenges of turning things around on such a short timeline from Worlds in Thailand. I feel like on the other hand, there's also been a lot of really positive momentum that got built because of Worlds at Thailand. And, a lot of people are, really following the world scene. And I was curious, so, one, both the fields, today, men's and women's in the vertical, as well as Sunday in the up down, the fields are stacked. I was also curious if you noticed that there was an additional increase in the number of applicants that had applied to be on the Worlds team across the distances, because it seemed like there was just a lot more talk about it. So I was curious what it looked like on your end.
Yeah, well, first, I think it's important to recognize the efforts of the athletes that were in Thailand and the degree to which they socialized that experience and told their peers. I think the best way to promote our program is through word of mouth. I think the second people that are sort of do some kudos are, again, Tom Hooper and Paul Kirsch, who did a lot of outreach. Paul has managed our U20 and junior program for a long time. Got connected with Lauren, her on her first team as a junior, where she was on the podium and won a medal in 2017 in Primana, Italy. And I gotta say, like, these junior athletes take a flyer, as do their coaches, when they're like, what? Mountain running? What is that? Is it dangerous? Okay, it's a world championship. I guess I'll give it a try. So like, I think all of those efforts collectively have really helped drive interest in the program. And to answer your question, yes, I have seen, because I'm the contact person, a flood of inquiries into my inbox. And I think I was just going to take a look at the spreadsheet, because people keep submitting resumes even after the deadline. And we've got 80 people 80 people have applied for the team. And mind you, there's not many spots, right? Like there's 2 resume spots on the long trail. There's 1, maybe 2 resume spots for the 40K. And there's, unless someone declines an automatic spot, there's no spots for mountain.
Yep.
You know, so that's 80 people who just wanted 8 spots.
How does that compare year over year, Richard, to 2022, roughly?
I didn't do, oh, okay. Yeah, actually, it's pretty simple. Yeah, it's like 2 to 3 times as many applicants.
That's awesome.
It's a lot. Yeah, and but the more important thing is like the quality that we're seeing as well. And you get the spectrum, right? Like a lot of people don't know, like, hey, I've won like a dozen local races and I've been at trail running for 2 years, and like, sure, I'll put my hat in the ring, and they don't have a hope, but like, that doesn't matter. Like, that's not the important thing, is to like receive their resume and give them equal treatment to everybody else. But at the top end of the spectrum, yeah, there's some amazing people that are applying, people that, you know, don't normally participate in the USATF National Championship program, maybe have never been on a world team before, and again, those are the people we want. You know, we want the Jim Walmsleys, we want the Courtneys, we want the, you know, the people that are the fastest who apply for the team.
And it's interesting to me, and I'm sure all of us, because, you know, individually and from a team standpoint, last year's teams in Thailand had a pretty large amount of success. And if we're talking about 2 or 3xing the applicants and having a larger pool to pull from, and even more talent than there was last year, which is saying something, I have to imagine that expectations are pretty high heading into Austria.
Yeah, I think so. You know, we still did not get applications or participation in selection races from, let's be honest, from many people that I think would widely be considered sort of like top 5 or top 10 on the men's and women's side, that have not expressed interest or have not shown up for a selection race. Would we want them on the team? Absolutely. It's like, on paper, does the U.S. have the capability to sweep the medals at the World Championships? 100%. We just got to get it. We just have to create the platform that makes it like something they can't pass down. And we're not there yet, because we're still struggling to get funding to like pay for everyone's expenses. So when we have to compete against commercial events like Golden Trail Series, UTMB World Series, where they're not only getting their ways paid, but they're getting maybe money to show up and race, they're getting big prize money. And yeah, there's finally prize money in Austria, and there was in Thailand. But like, we have to treat the athletes as the professionals they are. And if we really want to get the absolute best on our teams, it's going to cost money. And unfortunately, like a lot of people don't know this, but myself and the other 5 members of the team staff, those of us that led the team to Thailand, we don't work for USATF. We don't get paid for this. We invest, you know, hundreds of hours a year, because we're passionate about the sport and we want to see the athletes be successful. We're not getting paid for it. And, you know, like I said, like, the money is in high performance. The money is in Olympic sports. And so that's why we need to make the opportunity not just irresistible to the athletes, but irresistible to World Athletics and USATF to fund with enough to like make it irresistible, right? So it's the big money flywheel. But like, it has to come over to the federation system. I don't know. I don't have all the answers to how that happens, but I do know that like, money solves a lot of problems. So
I gotta say, by the way, no disrespect to race walking, because I thoroughly enjoy watching that when it's on in the Olympics. But I feel like there's an opportunity for us at some point to supplant them in the high performance category.
Yeah, you think? 100%. It is what it is, right?
I mean, isn't trail running just race walking except uphill?
I know. A lot of people walking at UTMB.
Touché.
Yeah. Did I just burn ourselves?
Lauren, do you have any follow-ups?
Yeah, I actually want to go back to the selection process. Just out of curiosity, have you guys considered doing maybe eventually a youth or a junior selection race, like make it a part of this event one day?
Absolutely. And I'm glad you brought that up, Lauren, because it gives me the opportunity to talk a little bit about the efforts that Max King and some others have started So Max King is a member of the USATF MUT Executive Committee, and he's been really passionate about youth running. As many of you know, he's hosted youth camps for a long time in Oregon. And so he, with the support of the American Trail Running Association, has this new youth trail initiative. So, he's set up this program to get existing races kind of youth trail certified. And so there's more information about that on the American Trail Running Association website, trailrunner.com. And, he's been instrumental in some conversations we've had about, how do we have, a more robust selection process for the U18 and U20 athletes, and how do we give them, but more importantly, how do we give them more opportunities? And so, this started on a very small scale a few years ago by finally having a kind of a U20 category at USATF National Championships in mountain running. It's not widely known, don't get necessarily particularly good athletes showing up, but it's there and there's medals awarded. But I think absolutely, and when we look at the quality of the athletes we've been getting for the U20 and U18 program, like yourself, Lauren, when you applied back in 2017, phenomenal athletes. So it's definitely it's the future. And, we know that the biggest opportunity in not just youth trail running, but trail running generally is not from trail runners. It's from the pre-existing amazing feeder system that already exists, and it's called high school and collegiate cross country and track. And the number of really phenomenal athletes that have come into trail running, Jim Walmsley included, Max King himself, Joe Gray, and many others have been really successful track, cross country, and eventually road athletes. Speed is speed, It's like Allie McLaughlin, same kind of thing, many other athletes like that. So if we can just get small portion of the very best U18 and U20 athletes to apply for teams or to show up for a youth trail national championship, again, we're going to sweep podiums at the Worlds.
Brent and Lauren probably definitely have a much better understanding of this than I do, but in the same way that you'll see these collegiate coaches go to high profile high school meets to recruit and, socialize, et cetera, are there any potential plans in place for these types of trail running organizations to have a similar presence and to have an impact, to have an influence, and to hopefully recruit, not necessarily for their college years, but after the fact?
Is that for me or for Lauren? Sorry.
I think it's probably for you, but because I know Max, for example, when we interviewed him yesterday, was talking about how one of the low-hanging fruit ways to grow the youth participation is to have these discounted race entries at certain races. And I thought it'd be fun to talk about other ways that, we can increase participation from this category.
Well, I think it's so small, but I think there's a lot of opportunity in collegiate trail running programs. I think Josh Eberly in Colorado has shown that he's developed what essentially looks like an NCAA program for trail running at his university, and they go around and they go to races like Moab Trail Marathon. He's at Sunapee now, and he's racing. He's got kids racing. We just need more of these maybe schools that are smaller who are not really embedded in NCAA Division I, who don't have as much to lose, who want to invest in sport that's more approachable and that there's a lot of growth in, and have club teams, and then maybe there's an opportunity to get more kids involved that way and have regional or national races that are collegiate trail running races. I think it's also probably due credit to the Collegiate Running Association in the work that Steve Taylor has done. He's done a collegiate trail running championships for close to 10 years now. Again, it hasn't grown a lot, but I think it's part of the problem there is just there just aren't enough schools out there that have dedicated programs. So he's putting one event on, usually in the summer, and hoping that a bunch of collegiate people show up to that. So he's trying to provide that opportunity, but it's a little bit of an island unto itself.
I love that you mentioned Josh Eberly's program too. There's actually an article out in iRunFar, I think from 1 or 2 days ago, that does a profile on Josh and the team, and maybe we can get it into the comments of the live chat. But yeah, very cool. Brett, what's on your mind?
Yeah, I was just thinking about kind of the whole process on, like what would it take to get more youth onto the start lines of some of these trail races. And I think such a big part of that can ultimately come down to the coaches of these teams and kind of breaking the stigma that trail racing doesn't make you better at track or cross country. Because I know there's still a lot of just kind of misunderstanding in regard to the sport of trail racing and how it's like, oh, well, no, if you do this or that, it will ruin your track. I mean, we have so many crossover athletes in these races that, they've proven that's definitely not the case and can in fact help. So, I think, a huge amount of this is kind of from an educational standpoint as well as, getting more coaches or current coaches on board with, these sorts of races.
Yeah, and I think part of that is also, like you say, breaking stigmas and this, I think, misperception that trail running is somehow dangerous. I think that is also exacerbated by a lot of people thinking that trail running is synonymous with ultra running. And I think that even though like races like Western States and UTMB get the lion's share of the attention, and like, I mean, running 100 miles, like, let's face it, like that's impressive, right? And it's pretty cool. You walk into your workplace on a Monday and be like, I just finished a 100-miler, over the weekend, and people are like, whoa, that's amazing. But you come back and you tell them you did a 5K. Like, okay, that must have been easy, right? But like, so I think that there's this whole like sub-ultra trail space that is very approachable for young runners, that they need to see as like something that like, yeah, I can totally do that. It's not going to mess with my season. My coach isn't going to ban me from doing it. That there is this whole like opportunity to like take steps into, you maybe end up doing a 100-miler eventually, but you don't have, it's not barrier to entry is low. 5K trail race, easy. Anyone can do it. 10K trail race, step yourself up. Like, it's not hard. And like, if you're into it, like you can toe the starting line with a Joe Gray or a Grayson Murphy. Like, it's not elitist at all. It's very grassroots. It's very down to earth.
Yep.
We're 30 to 60 minutes, or we're 30 minutes away from a race that's going to take 40 to 60 minutes tops. So it's also very approachable for fans too, if we want to grow the sport that way.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say as well. It's just the increase in media coverage, like the live stream that we're putting on now, more events that have, live streams and, essentially video to watch, that's going to increase just the number of eyeballs that are on these sorts of races. And yeah, maybe a high school kid or someone in middle school like sees a portion of this live stream, was like, wow, I want to do that race now. That's all it takes.
Yeah. I think we also have to think about it in the context of attention spans, which are just eternally shortening in today's sort of media age. Like, hey, still love watching some ultra races through iRunFar's Twitter feed. Right? Like, I'm kind of into that, but like, let's be honest, like that's not a hundreds of thousands size viewership right there. But if you can package mountain, trail running, sky running, who cares what you call it, but you can package a race that's off road into something that can, fit within the attention span of, a younger, large, growing global audience. Like, that's the way to like make the sport exciting. I don't think we necessarily have to like sacrifice values just to like create a package that's exciting.
Yeah, I think it has a neat little niche here, because we can see, I mean, I know that there's a lot of problems in track broadcasting, and I know there's just a bunch of different platforms to watch, and you have to have a membership for everyone, and it just really turns the track world and track fans off of watching track and field. And I think Mountain Ultra Trail has a really neat, like, being a little bit behind the ball and getting to witness what's going on in the track world or other spheres, maybe that's skiing or something, and maybe touching up some of those issues and maybe approaching it a different way to get viewers that maybe don't want to watch track anymore or just find this more accessible. So it's cool that this is, I believe, free and open to everybody. And yeah, I think also the fact that you're outside in the mountains, I think brings people who just want to look at where it's being set and raced. And I think Thailand did a really cool job of, or I mean, everybody involved with the media of Thailand just like really showcasing the place alongside the athletes within the race. And that was really neat.
One quick comment here, and I don't know, this could be fun to talk about, but I'm a big sports history nerd, and if you look at the history of most sports, the ones that got big, they got big because in their particular era, in their moment, they leveraged the most innovative technology of that era, and they were just first movers on it. So like with the NFL, for example, they were the first really to heavily invest in television. And I'll read this tweet here. The NFL draft started on a chalkboard. The first player ever decided to become a foam rubber salesman instead because the league was just so small and you couldn't make a living out of it. And I think that it's probably ridiculous to imagine that trail running is in a similar moment right now and that people are making choices to go one way or another in terms of investing in the sport. But like here we are on a live stream and we have this new deal with Eurosport and the Golden Trail Series, for example. And I feel like we have decided to invest in this arena and to go heavy on it. And other sports might be slow to move in a similar way. And I think if we think along those lines of what is the most innovative media technology out there and harness that, who knows where we go.
Absolutely. Well said. I think also we're on track with Austria. If I just sort of like look at what the local organizing committee is doing in Austria versus Thailand and the run up to the races in Thailand, I think the attention both over digital, but actually locally on the trails is going to be 10x of Thailand. I think that the local organizing
10x.
committee. Oh yeah, easily.
Wow.
Easily. It's certainly like on the ground people. Like the venue is much more approachable. It's in Europe. You know, they're really doing a lot. They're putting together like a lot of programs, like an ambassador program, like a volunteer program, you know, local races, trying to get fans to show up trailside. Like I think that they're really building a lot of really good buzz and trying to create, you know, an event that is attractive to come to and watch live. You know, and that's again, it's a lot easier. Short car ride, short train ride to Innsbruck. You know, not gonna didn't get a lot of Europeans flying all the way to Thailand just to watch the race. And we ran into American tourists on the street, but I guarantee you, none of them were there for the race. They were there for the elephants or something like that. And it just happened to run into a bunch of people wearing this kind of stuff. And like, oh, you're Americans, great. What are you here for? Elephants? No. Running. Right, Lauren?
Yeah, I love trying to explain to people what we were actually there for because they were so confused.
What is trail running? Like what?
They're like, where are you going? Like those mountains that way.
Yeah.
Up, really just up.
Awesome. And Innsbruck has Olympic facilities, correct? They have the Olympic history there.
Yeah, 1970. I think 1972 Winter Olympics were in Innsbruck. I guess Google can answer this question for us.
Cool.
But yeah, there was a Winter Olympics that was held there, possibly twice.
Right on. Hey, Brett, I'm seeing here in the chat, I think Paul might be able to come on and talk about the camera setup for the live stream, which could be interesting. It looks like we have a finish line camera here.
All right, should we remote him in and see what's going on over there at the top of the mountain?
Sure. It's a cool scene.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Loud and clear, perfect too.
Okay, cool. That's because the wind died for an 18th of a second. So I first have to give a huge shout out to Sunapee Resort. You know, this is the first time they've ever tried live streaming. This morning, the IT guy was moving the router 15 feet closer to where I am outside so I could connect. Like huge props to Sunapee. They're really working with us to make this event. And we're really excited. That means you can actually see the finish line, which is awesome. Wanted to mention a couple of things about cameras we will have along the way. So we are going to have, after the start of the race, and I'm not sure whether there's going to be a camera at the start, but after the start, they cross on kind of a service road, cutting across the mountain to get to the actual service road where the climb starts. And from that point, we will have someone in a vehicle, kind of cool. It's actually going to be in a Tesla, so it'll be a low emissions vehicle, so no runners having to breathe exhaust. And they're going to follow the lead men up until about the 1.2 mile mark. At that point, the runners will continue on, and then we will have another camera in the single track at approximately the 1.8 to 2 mile mark. The rest of the single track, then we won't have camera in there, but then when they pop back out on the service road, which is about 300 meters from the finish, is where we'll get the next camera, and then here at the finish line as well.
Awesome. Hey, Paul, we had a question from the live chat. Do you know how much of the course for this uphill course has snow on it for today?
Actually, for the uphill course, about 10 feet. Like
Okay,
literally, that's it. The mountain actually removed the snow from the service road at the top because they needed to get vehicles up here. And so last week they had machines out here pushing the snow off. You can kind of see the bank on either side of the course because it comes up kind of dissecting between those two. So they did that last week. And then within the single track, it's very muddy, very wet. But only when Tom and I were flagging it 2 days ago, there was just like one patch of snow left that people have to come in probably in the last like quarter mile.
Right on.
Cool.
It's about 45 degrees at the summit right now. It's windy. Yesterday it was 65 and sunny at the summit. So this is the beauty of mountain running.
Nice race conditions.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah, actually won't be too bad. And when they're in the single track, I mean, it'll be good. But yeah, we're super psyched. And I've run out of things to say.
Paul, can you talk us through just the number of unique shots that we'll have on the course for viewers over the course of the race?
Yeah, so we should have, so we'll have, the finish line, but let me start from the bottom. I believe we're going to have the starting line, and then we will have that lead vehicle that will follow runners from about, and it looks like, yeah, that's the vehicle now. I think is about to join us, but so that vehicle will follow until about the 1.2 mile mark.
Okay. And
they're actually going to park there until all of the men go by, and then they will head back down to be able to do the same thing for the women's start, which is at 11:45. The next camera is at about the 2 mile mark, which is in the single track. There's a kind of junction in the single track, and that's where that camera will be. And then we will have, the next camera is there's going to be a decent gap in there just because we can't get someone in there with good cell coverage. So the next camera then will be about 300 meters to the finish where they pop out from the single track. And then they've got a pretty steep climb, that last climb up. I don't know what the grade is, but it's easily 15% grade to the finish line.
Gotcha. And how's internet reception out there? How are you using Starlinks? Talk about that.
Actually, we are not. We have good cell coverage here at Sunapee. I'm on Wi-Fi at the summit, but if I was using a phone as well, really strong phone signal here. If we have it, and then in the woods, we tested it as well. We've got good cell coverage all around the mountain, so we're just using that, no Starlink.
Very cool. Well, I think one other thing I wanted to ask, we're still in this era where it's so impressive to pull off a live stream operation. So huge thank you to you and Tom and the rest of the crew for making this possible. What have been some of the interesting learnings in this process? I know that we still have 2 races to see it go off, but what are you excited about heading in? What did you learn through this process?
I think we learned a lot about what mics to use and headphones and like all the logistics there. And then honestly, having to me, one of the best parts of this is that, as you can see, it's shaking up here. One of the best parts of it is that we can have you remotely. So in case, we had no reception or, we've got some contact with you. But really that probably our biggest focus on this has just been making sure, we could get the cameras, kind of that value add of that first mile and the Tesla with the filming. We're really excited about that just because that's a pretty fast section. I'm guessing guys will be doing, it's got a grade to it, but I'm guessing guys, first mile of the race, probably 7-minute miles there. And so that'll just be fun, I think, to be able to follow them for that long. But really, it's just been the resort's been great to work with, getting the Wi-Fi going, and otherwise we're excited we have cell coverage.
Right on. Lauren, any comments?
I mean, I'm just beyond stoked to watch also. I think, usually racing these events, it's just as fun sometimes just to watch and see it from a different angle. And, rather than being, I don't know, behind a pack or leading a pack, you get to see the dynamics actually play out. So I'm really excited, and it's cool that you were able to get a car for this.
A Tesla, no less.
Yeah.
It's Tom Hooper's new sponsor is Tesla.
That money could go elsewhere too.
Brett would have gone Mazda, but that's okay.
Yeah,
No.
they're lacking in the EV department right now, so I'll give Tesla the pass. It's okay.
We were conflicted, but it was the only no emissions vehicle. The other option was my truck, and I believe the runners will be more appreciative to not have a 2011 Toyota Tundra in front of them spewing exhaust. So
Yeah, this will be great.
Emissions adjusted pace.
yeah, exactly.
I mean, I think it should be noted too that usually for cross-country races, or a road race, you can have a lead bike, but these runners are so much faster than a bike would be up this, especially even up the service road.
Yeah, and that service road, except for the very last section, and you can kind of see it there. So we have like orange, we have orange like slalom poles on either side of the course coming in there. I think you can see that. Right before that, it looks like the end of or the middle of a Tough Mudder course for about 100 feet. So it's going to be interesting to see. Like, honestly, traction there is pretty nasty just because it's a big mud pile. Before that, the service road is actually in amazing shape. It's dried out really well. So I think, Lauren, like what you were saying down below, really fast, but even when they get up here, traction is good on the service road.
Fantastic. What are the racers following along the course? Is it tied up? Because I know sometimes it's a little hard to know if you're on the right track or if you're following the right flags. Are they following flags tied up on the tree, or what is
no, they're like little surveyor flags on the ground, always on their right.
Nice.
One of the nice things in the single track, there's like 3 junctions, but otherwise, like, it's the only trail, which does make it nice. So like we have people at those junctions and heavily signed, but otherwise, like, you're on a trail, like you have no other options to be on another trail, which I think makes it a little easier. Honestly, it's harder, I think, when a race is on ski slope, because then it's like, where do I go? And so we almost have to flag it more heavily, where the single track kind of defines it for us.
Right. Yeah, I know that's a big point of contention sometimes in the trail racing world is, especially I think as the race gets longer, long turn and end up running an extra 6 to 8 miles sometimes. But luckily for these short races, especially the vertical, it's like just keep going up. So that's exciting.
Yeah, and there's one trail junction that's where our camera is actually. That would be the potential place hikers would be joining in. So that allows us to have somebody there just to warn people that there's a race going on. And we do have flags at all the junctions, just, saying there's a race going on for runner safety. Please do not remove flags. And no one has removed them yet, but we always like to put that out there because I know that has happened sometimes in races, and then that's just a disaster. I would hate to have the team selected by removed flags.
Yeah.
I guess on that also, what is the turnout from the community or the local area? Did people come to watch?
I honestly, like, people are starting to come up the lift right now. I honestly don't know because I've been on the top of the mountain since like 7:30. So I don't know how filled it got on the bottom. The gondola or the chairlift, there is no gondola here. People will probably be upset if I said ride the gondola up, because it's a chairlift and it's windy. But the chairlift is running, so we are hoping all the spectators will come up to the finish as well. There's a total of, I think there's 450 total entrants in the race today. And part of that is, this is part of, there's a USATF New England Mountain Running Circuit, which this year is 10 races. And kind of the appeal for that in New England is if you run this year 7 out of those 10 races, you get a bypass to the Mount Washington road race the following year.
Oh, that's cool.
And yeah, and that's honestly, Finn, that's how we went from, we had what we call the mountain goats. We had like 30 mountain goats to suddenly we have 120 mountain goats because, you know, people get frustrated not getting into the Washington lottery. And this way, they also get to experience all kinds of different mountain races. Some are on paved roads, like at Ascutney in Vermont. Some are on trails. You have Loon, you have Cranmore, and so forth. But so that always gives us 100, 150 people coming out to all these races, which just is a great base, no matter how many other people are racing as well.
Paul, what is your favorite camera shot on this course? Like, as listeners and viewers tune into this live stream, what do you think is going to be the most engaging experience from out there?
I think probably the first single track, because that's really going to give us, like, that's after some pretty technical trail. So that's really going to tell us, like, the camera during the first mile, I assume there's going to be a big pack together. But I'm really curious to see, you know, by that 2 mile mark, what's happened, who's loving the single track and who's regretting that 6-minute pace on the first mile. Cool. And you know, from there, then, you know, obviously popping out, it'll be interesting to see, you know, once they pop out as well. But I think that's going to be a really telling sign of what it's looking like there, because, and I think Dan Kurtz had said this yesterday in his interview, is it's a course that it wouldn't be easy to pass in some sections, or you are going to waste a fair amount of energy. So it is going to be interesting to see this strategy around that.
Oh, yeah. Cool. Well, we're about 8 minutes from the start of this race, Paul. Am I correct?
Yes.
8 minutes. Let the countdown begin.
Yeah. I wonder if should we go into kind of a little bit of preview for this race? You know, a few names to watch, talk about what might be going on. So the first race, the men's race, is going to go off first in 8 minutes, and then the women's race will go 45 minutes afterwards. Finn, who are a couple favorites that you've got your eye on for this men's race?
One thing I want to say before I name a couple names for anyone out there that is not in the know, there's a website called fantasy.freetrail.com where you can go and they have this event listed with all of the runners in each of the men's and women's races, and you can make your picks for this race and you can follow along that way, which is very fun. I'll read off some of my free trail picks here. In the women's race, I am really excited, obviously, about Grayson Murphy. She's a household name in this sport. She is based here in my hometown of Salt Lake City, Utah. Rachel Tomczyk, we had her on the pre-race interview yesterday, based out of the Flagstaff area. Excited about her. My original hometown of Cape Elizabeth, Maine, has a great runner named Lila Godreau. I'm not sure if I pronounced that last name correctly, but awesome that she's from there. And I'm excited to root for her just based on location. And then I think one of the most interesting interviews of the day, Megan Lacey yesterday. I'm also excited to see her race. She does such an excellent job of balancing so many impressive life responsibilities. So those are my favorites in the women's field. I personally think in the men's race, Garrett Corcoran is going to win this race outright. That's my bold prediction for the day. I'm not sure if he has
That's a hot take.
Total name recognition yet, because there are people of a stature like Joe Gray and Dan Kurtz in this race, but I think Garrett is going to win this thing. A couple other names, be on the lookout for Eddie Owens. Brett, you introduced me to Eddie Owens late last year. He was one of your legendary Strava finds, incredible runner. And then there's another guy based out of Leadville, Colorado, Noah Williams, that I want people to pay attention to. So those are mine. Lauren, what do you got?
Yeah, if we're talking about the men's right now, I also think Joe D'Amore should not be slept on in this. He is
agreed on Joe D'Amore.
An absolute beast uphill, and I think he has a lot of experience that I think he's slept on a little bit, and he needs some recognition. So obviously Joe Gray is just beyond experienced here. I think Dan Kurtz could be interesting just because he hasn't run much vertical, and I think he's just coming off a lot of momentum from Thailand. And then Oh, and Morgan Elliott's running the vertical, correct? We
I
have
think
read
so.
that.
Yep.
Yep, he's
He's
on
also
the
an
on the
absolute-
list.
So this field is super stacked in the men's side. Women also, I think Grayson obviously is just a experienced pro somehow. She's still super young too. I mean, world champion and everything else. But also Rachel, I think we saw like last year her just really cling on to the vertical distance and that discipline, and I'm excited to see because she's been crushing FKTs all winter and seems like she's gotten a lot of good training in. Yeah, so I'm really excited to see those two, and I know them personally, so I'm super stoked.
How about you, Brett? Brett, if you
Yeah.
can talk about Eddie Owens for a second first.
I haven't checked on the Eddie Owens like training as of recent.
Okay.
But so I'm curious to now watch him race and then look back and then put the pieces together and be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, a couple interesting names that are on the start list. Another Garrett Heath.
Is out for this race, by the way.
He is out for this race.
Yeah,
okay.
Per Strava, he's out as of yesterday.
Do you know the status of Chad Hall?
I don't. That's an interesting name, though.
Because that is a name that I'm very curious about. If Chad Hall is starting this race, I would expect to see him right up towards the front, as the first mile and a half, mile and 3/4 is going to be his bread and butter. I really do think that there's going to be a pretty big fight to the bit of single track. I looking at it from a tactical standpoint, I see an advantage to being one of the first people to the single track and being able to set your own tempo. If you're right behind someone, it's hard to then just make, good decisions on the footing as well as, just running your own race once you get into that single track section, because it is so technical. There's giant steps. And, the second you get over that threshold and you're like full in the red zone, there's not really any way to get back out of it shy of then losing a whole bunch of spots. So I think it'll be whoever can go out pretty hard, but not cross that red line threshold. Lauren, what do you think? If you're in this race, what kind of tactics are you taking into this one?
Oh, I did get to see part of the course. I was out there last weekend. So I've seen the service road. It is steep. It's really steep. So I think going out too hard on that part, I don't know, maybe personally, I wouldn't probably go with the leaders. Maybe if it's a pack, I would just try to hang back. And I've only run one VK, I guess also in Thailand, but the one VK experience I had, I just needed to turn my brain off and run my own race because I know that, mountain running is just so particular in your skill set. So you kind of just have to feel it out, I think. So running the first section, how within yourself, and then moving from there, especially because it does just keep getting steeper. I think making sure to monitor where you're at through half the race, 20, 30 minutes, and then see how much you have left for the final push.
Yeah, and the final push on this course is also interesting too, because there's a little bit of a downhill before then opening up to the service road again. So you can leave it really late, but it is possible to make a big move and pass people in the last, 400 to 600 meters.
One note I should make, Brett, on that downhill section.
Yes.
It looks like a fast downhill, but if you've ever seen Eastern Trail with just roots exposed where you can't even plant your foot totally between the roots, it's that kind of trail. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to take a good technical person to fly through that.
Yeah.
So it could be advantageous for some,
right?
And probably not for most.
Well, yeah, it'll be interesting to see, because if you kind of have that arc down of fast steps over roots, you can easily pass people, because I could see some people slowing down because of it, just because it is kind of tricky.
I think also what's hard when you're in single track is if you let someone get away too far and all of a sudden you don't think they're close and it opens up to a finish like this, and all of a sudden you get people.
Hold on.
I'm working. I'm gonna mute our start line cam for a sec. They disappeared. We're gonna try our best to get all the cameras in here at all the correct times. But once the gun goes off, which
should be momentarily
should
here.
be
Yeah.
momentarily, any pictures we get of people moving, we're going to go straight to them, and we'll make our faces tiny.
One camera I completely forgot about until he showed up a minute ago. Patrick Karen has a camera on a gimbal, and he is going to be somewhere late in the single track and kind of following some leaders, going back, getting some other people as well. So we may get some video coverage, before they pop out back on the trail too.
Okay,
Film
cool.
Sure.
Okay, so we got a camera at the start line. Let's see, how can we make that one the big camera? I don't want to be the big. All right.
Hey, what are those shades on that guy? That's cool.
Let's see what the I'm gonna unmute the start line cam for a sec just to see what it's like down there.
So that is Tom Raffio, the CEO of Delta Dental, and he's a runner. The guy who just walked across there. They're actually the biggest sponsor of the race. The guy in black who just kind of wandered across.
Okay.
Cheers to the non-endemic sponsors. We love that.
Yes. So they probably sponsor well over $200,000 worth of races in New England. They sponsor everything from snowshoe races to 5K trail to this to everything. So, all right, I'll shut up now. Looks like we're about ready to go.
I don't know if there's anything you see that's worth adding or cameras that need to be switched to, just yell at us or take over.
I think that mile 1 Sunapee camera that right now it's focused on a car seat. I know it's not for the viewers, but that's the one that's going to be probably your first camera right after the start, Brett.
Okay. And well, I can't guarantee a proper split screen, but I'm definitely going to try my best.
I cannot wait for this Tesla moment. This is great. VK race about to pop off.
I'm pretty
Thank you,
sure
Paul.
the
Thank you, Tom.
last time a Tesla was the lead car for a race was Eliud Kipchoge's first sub 2-hour marathon attempt. So
that's right.
That's kind of that's like where the bar is at right now. I mean, that is the tier. That is the tier of this race. Like this race is that big of a deal.
And make no mistake, we're raising the bar in this case.
Absolutely.
See, there's a little bit of chatter in the live chat about how long we think this race might be. So we're looking 4 miles. First bit is pretty fast. The last bit's really slow, like over under 40 minutes. What do you think?
Oh gosh, Lauren, what do you think? I got to pass to you first.
Oof. Yeah, I feel like if I say slower, then sounds like I'm discounting people. But I would say probably in the 40 to 45 minute for the men. Maybe sub 40. That would be
I'm going
crazy.
sub 40. Let's see.
Love it, Brett.
38 minutes. 38 minutes for the winner. And I think that's going to be due to this hot start.
41 minutes for me. That first mile, 6:10, not grade adjusted.
Woo. Yeah, I could see that because that's probably grade adjusted to close to a 5-minute mile or maybe a hair under, which for a 38 to 40 minute race, a 5-minute opening mile is pretty reasonable. All right,
they're going to the line.
We're back to the start. We're going to the line. I would look out for Joe Gray in the Hoka kit. The Ageless Wonder Max King will be wearing a Solomon kit.
Give it a wave. Wave to mom.
Some of these runners are getting high off the ground. They got some hops.
You need that. You need that for a race like this.
Explosive plyometric power.
Box jumps.
Yeah, we actually don't allow starting blocks at this event. But
I'd start walking back a little bit.
Can you imagine if there was a race that allowed starting blocks? And
I just think it would be great to have one person set up in starting blocks at a mountain race, just so everyone else could be like, "What's going on?"
Well, I guess one of the other vertical formats is the time trial, where everyone starts, 90 seconds or a minute apart from each other, which I think definitely has its own exciting feel to it. But the cross country athlete in me loves the dirt mass start.
Yes.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, this is looking a lot for me right
For
now.
the start of a cross country race, the rules are generally if someone falls in the first 100 meters, they call the race back.
3, 2, 1. We are off. Wow.
Whoa. Oh my goodness.
Oh, let's go.
That was a full-blown sprint.
Yeah. Oh, this is exciting.
All right.
Thank you, Tom, for the start line experience.
Yeah, no
Great
problem, man.
turnout today at
Hey,
Sunapee.
So based on the pace they went by, that
Always.
that camera,
Nope.
other one, they're going to be at it very soon.
So that'll be mile 1 Sunapee cam.
That's my guess.
Coming
Yeah,
north.
yeah, and they're like, that's like 200 meters. If you want to highlight that one next, that's where we're going to see him pop onto next. Yeah.
Okay. There's the Tesla.
Ooh, a lovely obsidian blue, I see.
Actually, that looks like as smooth a surface as you're going to find in northern New England. So yeah, this first mile is going to be fast.
Aid Station Fireball wants to take the under on 37.5 minutes. Finn, as the bookie, are you taking that bet?
I am absolutely taking that bet. Yes.
So they're going to come out. You can kind of see a little gap of light color over on the left there, and actually here they come.
Yes.
All right.
Let's see if we can make out people here. Joe Gray's going to be in that Hoka kit. Garrett Corcoran, by the way, Brett, is going to be in the yellow.
Is Garrett's wearing his classic homemade yellow kit with the Sharpie on it?
For folks that are just tuning in, I made the bold pick of taking Garrett for the win here, despite the prestige at this event.
Well, and for those who don't know, Garrett does have a very stout resume on the track.
Yes. Yes. Berkeley alum. He's run, I think, 13:40 in the 5K, sub 4 miler. He brings a lot of pedigree.
Is Garrett actually our fastest miler in this field? Well,
he's 3:58.
3:58. Chad Hall's running the low 4s. I don't know if Max King ever officially broke 4 minutes.
And Max is not running today.
Oh, right. Max isn't running today. That's right.
He's focused totally on making the up-down team. Yeah.
Oh, Garrett Heath is the fastest.
And Garrett
Heath
is for viewers out there, Garrett is the guy on the left there in the yellow.
Garrett Corcoran.
Garrett Corcoran. Yeah, the topography is going to be changing very soon here. This is not representative of New England trails, what we're seeing right now. This is incredibly smooth.
In the chat, they're saying Liam Myro is also a sub 4-minute miler as well.
Awesome.
There aren't too many miles that get contested that have multiple sub 4-minute milers in the field, let alone a mountain race. This is amazing, and this is a huge turning point for the sport where it will just be regular now, where it's like, oh yeah, of course I've run under 4 minutes in the mile and I'm running a vertical race. It appears that we have Garrett Corcoran pushing the pace. There is a little gap.
A little, yes.
There is a little
maybe
gap.
A second or two.
And then I see Joe Gray behind him as well.
Yeah.
Right after they will pass the where this lead vehicle will stop, they actually have a quick descent for probably 100-200 meters.
Is that on road?
It is on road, so it's fly on that section. So it'll be interesting, and that's like right before then they get to the single track. The single track, as soon as they hit it, they've got to cross the stream. So that's going to be interesting to see. And when I say cross the stream, it's like inch or two of water. There are a couple options of rocks going, rock paths to go over. So it'll be interesting to see, if that has any impact.
Right on.
We're going to do the best we can to identify other runners by bib number when we can. It looks like there's a red singlet behind Garrett. One bit of color commentary on Garrett. The man is a training machine. He lives here in Salt Lake City, Utah, was averaging about 10 to 15 hours a week of uphill skiing in addition to running. So multi-sport and just getting a massive amount of time on feet. I don't think he's going to be fazed by 40% grades. He was setting Skinners that had a much higher grade than that here in the Wasatch. And he told me pre-race that he wanted to dictate this event. He wanted to go out and set the pace, set the tone. He's not intimidated. He's confident. And he's a part of a cohort of runners that made a pact in January here in Salt Lake City to make this world's team. And this is his moment. So we'll see if he can follow through here.
Yep. We're definitely still very, very early on. For those who are just tuning in, we are in the opening minutes of the men's vertical race. The first about 1.5 to 1.75 miles is uphill on a service road before diving into the single track. So that is what we are viewing now from our Tesla cam. It
But I
does
think it's
appear.
cool.
Oh, go ahead, Lauren.
Yeah, I think it's cool that they include this road section in the beginning, because it really does just play into different people's strengths, and we have so much leg speed in this race and on the women's side. So yeah, I think this is the epitome of a crossover hybrid event, you know?
Yeah.
And that's exactly what it is you just have to pull everyone's different strengths together and see what you can do on the day.
I do really like how this does give a little bit more kind of organic opportunity for the race to spread out a little bit before hopping into the single track, which I think makes for a fun tactic instead of, some races we've seen, it's like 200 meters through a parking lot before going into single track. Someone could just get unlucky there with the start. Whereas if you're not where you want to be by the time you hit the single track in this race, it's 100% your fault.
Yeah.
Lauren, one question I wanted to ask you. Paul had mentioned that in this first single track section they hit, there's going to be a chance for lead runners to box out their competition. As somebody who has experience in these types of events where you see changes in terrain, changes in the profile of the course, what has been your strategy in those moments where you have these like wide Jeep roads and they collapse into single track? How do you approach that?
It looks like that's
we got Aid Station 1 camera. I'm trying to see if I can make both of those big. I think this is the best I can do. I hope everyone's watching on large monitors.
We're actually, I was going to say, what I'm seeing, Brett, is all 6 of us now. I don't know if you can split it to just 2.
Oh, nope. That's not the 2 that I want.
That's fine. We still got that view of the lead pack there.
Yeah, I'm going to keep it on the lead pack and then.
And so they are coming up here to where I'm guessing the car will pull off. So we may also get a glimpse there. Yeah, I'm very curious to see, certainly the most experienced racer here. We froze, but most experienced racer here for mountain running, Joe Gray. I've seen him in other races where he's in 6th place at this point because he's a smart racer. And so I'm curious to see if he makes a surge in the downhill. He knows how much downhill he has before he gets to that single track. He did preview the single track too, so he knows what's coming. So I'm very curious to see, how he adjusts here. He may be looking at the couple people in front going, yeah, I'll let you go for a little bit, but I'll reel you in.
And to that point, Paul, I think what we're seeing here in Garrett is somebody who's he recognizes, and this is inside information, but he recognizes that his skill set is going to be in the uphill. That's where he wants to buy all his time.
There we go. So they're passing. Looks like that.
Great camera view.
Yeah, I mean, definitely looking at the front pack go by, I would say that everyone did look relatively relaxed still.
Yeah.
Let's just, I'm not sure. We'll keep this on for a second.
Yeah, I think them hitting the single track, back to your question, Finn, is going to be interesting to see how people monitor themselves within the competition, because it's so easy to get maybe ahead of yourself and not consider the whole rest of the race you have ahead of you, just trying to head-to-head battle somebody. So I think it's going to be a balance of keeping everyone in contact, or keeping yourself in contact with other people, and also not expending just as much energy as you can, just trying to be efficient and control your breathing, and but without letting go of the field. So that should be interesting. And I think there's always a little bit of boost when you're catching somebody rather than just fading back. And I've had vertical races where I'm just fading the whole time, and it's absolutely demoralizing. So, it'll be interesting to see who's doing what here.
Great.
I would love to see a study just on whoever, like the finishing top 10. How much of a correlation is there just between pure VO2 max number and their finishing place? Because this seems to be very much a race that would put on display that pure high-end aerobic engine.
Yes.
Yeah, just riding that red line for as long as you can.
Yeah, which has always come into, like, that's why we've seen a lot of Nordic skiers cross over to these vertical events so well, because you definitely do have to have a good amount of leg strength, but so much of it is your ability to just take in a ton of oxygen and turn that into usable power for your muscles.
I'm curious to see if there's going to be more cyclists crossing over, mountain bikers or gravel cyclists that can absolutely crush. I think personally, I think they would crush an uphill.
Oh, for sure. Especially those in like the cyclocross world where the races are relatively short and punchy. That would be, I mean, yeah, I'm sure we'll start to see it.
Yeah, it almost mimics that out of your saddle type of riding, I think. So
Yes.
Yeah, that would be really cool to see that those power numbers convert to mountain running.
Absolutely.
So Brett, I don't know if you can split screen, but that camera there titled Adam Single Track.
Yeah.
That's the about 2 miles in.
Okay. I'm going to just make that our big one.
Sure.
Let's see. Should I remove aid 1 at this point?
Uh-oh. We've got a struggle on reception there.
While we're getting reception to viewers out there that want to participate in the live chat, we'd love to hear from you. If you have great intel on some of the runners in this race or just any commentary on what's going on, please chime in. We'd love to have you as part of the conversation.
Yeah, we always love having seeing what the fans are up to. As you know, those who are in the live chat are very knowledgeable about the sport and this event, and they might see something that we don't.
One note I did see in there was someone mentioning there are a couple of the Canadian mountain running team runners running today. I know at least one of them was top 15 at Worlds last year, so it'll be interesting to see. I think that's Ricard was top 15. So it'll just be interesting to see where they are in the mix as well.
Hey, Paul, maybe you have the best insight on this. We're looking at this current mile 1 cam right now. It looks like that Jeep Road surface is a little bit quicksandy. Are these runners likely caking their shoes right now and picking up some extra debris as they hit the single track?
No, I don't think it I know it kind of looks that way. I think it's a little chopped up, possibly, maybe a little muddy. But that's the stream will be a nice shoe wash for everybody. So there is that aspect.
Free car washes at Sunapee.
That's right. But I know right after this, it's all pretty solid sandy. So now if you wanted to switch that Jim single track, Brett, that camera now we might, because who knows when they'll be coming into that, but
yeah, I don't want to miss anyone.
And kind of where it is, they're just all of a sudden going to appear.
Yeah. Yeah, and we're
crossing our fingers that Verizon.
The service side of things is out of our control at this point, so we're gonna try our best. Let's hear it in the chat. Who are you guys all rooting for? Who's gonna win this thing? I mean, I'm seeing a lot of Joe Gray. I'm seeing a lot of Liam Myro fans in the chat as well. I don't know that much about him, so for those who do know,
so here comes first runners. I don't know if we'll be able to see who it is.
I think that's still Garrett.
It's looking like Garrett. It's a huge train. There's no gaps.
Wow.
Okay, we got red
Canadian runner, I think, next. There's Joe Gray.
I just saw Dan Kurtz. So I saw
Canadian runner and Joe Gray.
And Dan Kurtz as well.
That was Eddie Owens.
Fourth.
I think Eddie Owens was fifth.
Garrett Corcoran is leading the uphill race.
Garrett's got range too. Won the JFK 50 this past November.
Jim Graham, I don't know if you can hear us. If you can yell out bib numbers, that would be great.
Okay.
I think we saw Chad Hall pass, and he's been talked about in the chat a little bit. Let it be known also that he's coming off of Boston last week, so a couple of weeks ago. He was in the elite field at the Boston Marathon running 2:14, which I think is going to be interesting to see the turnaround here.
Yep.
Absolutely. And not his first marathon of the year. He also did the Phoenix Mesa Marathon in February, I believe, and ran 2:12.
So
Wow.
2350 was Mike Popejoy earlier. I didn't hear the last one.
I think it was 2051, 2051,
2016,
and 2016.
2453,
Cole
2020.
Campbell, Lee Baroob.
Way to go.
Eric Blake was 2020.
2065.
I don't
That's
have 2065.
a random baller. That's not in our list. That's a random baller.
Yeah,
1999.
random baller alert.
2120.
Another random baller. So I mean, it's still really anyone's race at this point.
Oh, Adrian McDonald. I just saw
That was
Adrian pass by.
Adrian McDonald.
2150.
He is two-time Leadville
2150.
champion.
2170.
That would
Finn,
be,
is this looking much more like East Coast trails you're used to?
2343.
still not quite there until I see the slate. We haven't seen it yet, but this is close.
2147.
Paul, do you know what the approximate mileage of this camera is?
I believe it is.
Miles?
It's just under 2 miles. Yes.
Okay, so
2179.
this has been nearing the halfway point in terms of distance for the race. In terms of time, definitely not halfway.
Yeah. So it's essentially it's right after this that your legs get hit with a 2x4 on the first climb. Like it's just that kind of super steep section where you're going from running on technical trail to probably most people will be power hiking at least for part of it.
All right.
I think that's the most interesting
$20.99.
being a track or road athlete to the trail is no longer thinking distance relevant. You just have to try to monitor how much time you're shooting for. You know, you look at your watch and you see, oh, I'm only 2 miles from the finish, but actually you still have another 3/4 of the race to run.
It could be 30 minutes.
Yeah. You can't equate the two, and you definitely can't look at what pace you're running. I think that's a big turnoff for road runners or track runners, because they just can't get over that they're running somehow 12-minute miles or 13 or 14-minute miles or just walking.
The dreaded double-digit mile.
Right.
I remember. So that's local. Kevin Tilton just ran by. He was on the U.S. mountain running team a long time ago, and he lives in North Conway. He is actually one of 3 people. Finn, you would know this. He's redlined the trails in the White Mountain National Forest. He has run or hiked every single.
I love that. One thing I want to add, this camera view right here, I think this is a perfect representation of why steeplechasers convert so well to the trail running scene.
You got to be fleet-footed. Pin in that one.
Agreed. If you know Morgan Elliott, if you have the reference, the visual, it's totally true.
Who is Morgan's coming off of a pretty quick turnaround from the Lake Sonoma 50 mile, right?
2x4s get hit by Morgan. Yeah.
Wow. So
when you were talking about crossover athletes on steep things, you've been at Upper Walking Boss at Loon, and I remember New England, incredible track runner, and it totally defeated her because she started doing that, and she's like, oh, that person's right there, and then it just destroyed her not being able to run to catch. And I do think that's a mental challenge on some parts of the course like this.
Yep, great point. Paul, what's going to be our next view of the leaders in terms of cameras?
Brett, so it's the Pat Cam, which is Pat Karen. It's close to Pat Cam. Anyway, he is somewhere in the single track before it pops back out. So probably pretty close to where the single track ends, but he is going to try and follow the few lead runners if he can in front of them.
So that could be in the next 5 to 10 minutes, maybe, if that's another mile up the trail from when it's been.
I think it's going to be, I mean, probably in 10 minutes at least, because like that's the tough part of the trail they're in right now. Just all the climbs, the 40% grade sections. So it'll be like where they're really going to be slowing down, that's going to be the section they'd slow down in.
Man, I am so curious to see who comes through the Pat Cam first. And
Lauren, you've been in the thick of these races before. You've been in these moments where you're halfway through a VK. Walk us through the mindset. Like, obviously you're suffering, you're in pain, but talk about like the strategies you use to push through and just generally how you're feeling otherwise.
I mean, I still have not a ton of experience in this, and maybe 3 total uphill races, which have been run both either blowing up the whole rest of the race or feeling good. And I think the best strategy for me personally, mentally especially, because that's really all that truly matters here, is just how the athlete's doing mentally, is to be hitting this point halfway and still climbing well and still feeling strong and still knowing that they have more to give for the rest of the race, rather than hitting halfway and just already feeling that going backwards, in the race and being passed. So I think whoever's in the best mental state the longest, really, that's who I would count on winning. And obviously you can't tell who that is really, but I think just staying in the right mindset and just knowing you still have more to push and feeling good about yourself, rather than, the whole negative feedback of just,
oh yeah, absolutely.
another pass. And like Paul was saying, it sucks when you see someone go and you can't respond with anything in you. So yeah, if you're able to pass rather than be passed, obviously that's a huge confidence booster.
Yeah, kind of to follow up on that, one thing that we have noticed, I'm sure you've seen it across the collegiate ranks, going up towards the 10K, and we're seeing it a lot in marathons now, is like everybody is fit enough to go out hard and run a fast time, but you now have to be able to kick kind of almost no matter what. We're seeing that so much in marathons. I mean, we see it in the 10K too, where, it's like, if you're not like on the ladies side at USA, is like, if you're not ready to close that final mile in about 4:30, you're not going to make a team. Whereas that's just like on American distance running. Like, I don't know if we've ever been at that time in the sport. I've been noticing in recent years for trail, we're starting to see that trickle over where everybody can just go out hard in red line, but it's who can be on that red line and then have one more gear at the end. That's now the difference between making a team and not making the team, where it's just one more additional bit of tactic. And that's just so exciting.
Great point.
And I think that's what's cool about these shorter races. It is obviously, we saw the lead pack come through halfway still really close. So, I mean, it's almost like watching a 5K or 1500 where, it's down to the wire and you're just watching and hoping, maybe you get a lean or something. So it's also bringing in different disciplines of athletes with skiers, maybe some cyclists and track NCAA people, or, just more experienced track or marathon runners. You get to see like who showcases their strengths and where. And I think maybe having that leg speed and that, we talked about how many sub 4-minute milers are in this race. Who knows, maybe it comes down to who has the best mile PR, they have the best kick at the end. So it's really neat just to trail just brings in, just a myriad of different talent levels and just what you're good at and how that applies to what race you're at.
We very well could see a 5-person sprint for the finish.
So, Brett, I was thinking it might be worth putting on the Pat Cam because when they get to him, it's just going to be all of a sudden.
All right.
And Brett,
it also gives you a great glimpse of what the trail looks like.
Wow.
Coverage.
Pat, your camera looks great.
Brett, one question. If you see them coming through, could you unmute them for a second to see if we hear any chatter or breathing?
Yeah, Pat's camera is hot at the moment.
So you can see.
Look at that New England trail.
Yeah, and that is the section.
This section's really tacky.
It looks flat. Come on.
You almost seem to be a stair runner for this.
Pat, this looks excellent.
Yeah.
And this was the part I was discussing when you were talking, Brett, of, if I can surge on the downhill kind of looks like this too.
So someone will be able to. if your ankles are ready, if you've been doing
Yes.
your Bosu ball exercises,
Surging
Might
might
be
be
all right.
whoever's free falling the fastest.
quick feet.
Who can let themselves go on this?
I
Brett,
can
you're-
barely even see the trail.
It's right in front of you.
I'm not sure that. I think it. Yeah, it's
Trail's
a
right
little.
down here.
Oh
There you
my
go.
goodness.
If it doesn't look like a trail, Brett, it's a trail in New England.
I'm not used to that. I haven't seen a rock in like 6 months.
We actually move rocks onto the trail.
Oh man. Last rock I saw was Dwayne the Rock Johnson in the last Fast and the Furious movie.
They're still making them.
Fast 10 comes out in a few weeks. So pumped.
Yeah, so that is right on. And it's kind of hard to see, but there's a flag right in the middle of that, and you
Yep.
can actually
Yep.
see the Greenway Trail marker on the tree there.
Yeah, that's great to be able to see a pretty good sized kind of shot of the trail looking in.
Just to recap, we had Garrett in first. I can't remember who second was. Third was Dan Kurtz. 4 was Joe Gray. Very curious to see if those standings are maintained at this checkpoint.
Interesting though, in that front pack is, I believe his name is Andre. My apologies to the
Andre,
Canadians.
okay.
Yeah, I think it's Ricard. He was in that lead pack, and so interestingly enough,
Max King
He's not-
sighting.
Not in the race. Not in
No.
the race.
no, but no, interestingly, so if that pack of 5 stays together, that is the team, if you think about it, because one of those is on the Canadian team.
Okay.
Yeah, and for
You know, it
those
may
who are
not be those
listening,
5.
we're looking top 4 will get automatic spots for the
Correct.
uphill team. On the women's race, it's top 3 because Allie McLaughlin has one of the spots as the reigning world champ.
Lauren or Brett, where do you anticipate seeing the carnage begin? Like, are we at that point here?
Oh, I feel like it's already happened.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like, at least for me, vertical races are kind of carnage the whole time.
Mm.
If you're talking about quality or racing, I think we're with you here.
So Pat is looking towards where they're going to pop back out on the ski trail.
Okay.
Now he's turning back to where they're going to come from. But just to give you an idea of perspective there.
And once they pop out,
About a third of a mile from that
Okay.
point.
Wow.
oh, I can hear the announcers.
Paul, do you know where we're at in terms of time in the race elapsed so far?
So it started at 5 minutes past the hour.
Okay. So about 27 minutes in.
Yeah, thank you.
And we're thinking this is going to be a 15-minute race after this checkpoint if we're in that like 38 to 42, 43
What was
minute
that?
finish time. So
Yeah.
consequential section here.
Oh, sweet. Thanks, Max.
We get a Max King update.
He's going to give us a heads up when they're coming.
Max King, he's just gonna do the bird signal, like.
I think what's interesting about having it all on the same weekend and then also the same trip for Worlds and not making it like a week apart or something is, I remember in Thailand, some people that were only set to run the vertical ended up running both races because that's the talent pool we had to pull from while we were there. If someone couldn't race or someone was nursing an injury, and just it was kind of fun to see the chess be played out,
Yes.
as the weekend went on, to see who would make up the best team if somebody could no longer race or so it kind of gave, if you qualify just for the vertical, that doesn't mean you're discounted from also running the up down when you're over in Austria. So yeah, it's really neat just that we have so much talent to pull from and like move around and still make really high quality teams that way.
Absolutely. Yeah, and there are a handful of athletes that are going to double back next week at the Breakneck. Trail Marathon for the 40K team.
That's awesome.
I was talking with the leader, Garrett Corcoran, before this. He said that if there was one section he was concerned about, it was this type of terrain, this technical terrain. I think that's why he wanted to be in the lead. I think if there's any change, I wouldn't be surprised if it begins on this section here for his race. But the guy is such a strong climber. I have to expect he's still there.
Oh, we got a shout from Max. Here they come.
All right, the men's leaders are making their way through one of the gnarliest single track sections before popping out of the single track and having a little bit more runnable terrain. So, yeah, for those who
I'll
are
try to
tuning
yell
in,
names. Oh,
that
I
would
think
be
we
awesome.
got Liam. I think we got Liam and oh no. Here we go. Nice job.
Oh,
man
shit,
down,
we got a
down.
fall.
Nice work. Nice work.
Is that our who was the first person, Pat?
365.
Red and
We
Pat?
got
black.
Joe Gray in second.
Red and black singlet.
Joe
They're
Gray.
going so fast.
So fast.
So that's Card from Canada is in first.
Okay,
Okay.
so we got Alex.
like
We got
Dan
Kurtz in
Kurtz.
third.
Dan Kurtz.
Dan
Oh,
Kurtz.
Garrett.
Garrett
Garrett
Corcoran.
with a ball. Nice job, Garrett.
Watch your
We
teeth.
got Eddie in fifth.
Eddie in fifth. Okay.
Eddie Owens.
Here comes Max King.
Your
So
shoe
some-
choice really does
Alright, so
matter.
that's your top 5. In 6, I think. Oh, we got Mo Trails. Woohoo! Nice job, man.
Wow,
he looked the best going
that
through.
was the best.
And because
Yeah,
he's
he
trying to
was
chase
smooth.
down a spot, if you think about it.
Wow, this is exciting. They're all so close for this spot still.
You hear the bells.
I've never seen so many people on the brink of falling on one 50-meter section of course. They've been like that for the last mile and a half.
Ugh. And just the
Alright, so
frustration too.
pretty
when you're-
big gap between 6 and the rest of the field.
Okay, so that was our big gap. Oh my goodness.
They've probably hit the ski slope at this point.
So
for the
I'll
last
probably
quarter
know
mile.
from the announcer if you want to switch to probably finish line soon, but I'll tell you when.
Finish line. There's also a 300 meters to the finish.
Yeah, but it
camera.
looks like-
keeps going in and out.
Yeah.
Nice work.
This is 7th place.
7th place coming through. 2096.
I am just blown
Okay, so
away at
switch
how
switch
fast-
to
8th and
finish
9th.
line. Switch to finish line right now.
That was
Alright.
Remy and Liam.
that was Joe Demore in 7th place.
There's Remy and Liam.
And that is
Alex Ricard.
so here comes, I believe that's Alex Ricard, and here comes Joe Gray. And then it looks like Dan Kurtz,
Wow.
and Dan Kurtz right behind him.
Nice work.
And now we've got, it looks like Eddie Owens trying to come in for third
Or 4th.
fourth, yeah. Third.
Okay.
Just overtaking Garrett
Garrett.
Corcoran. But those are the top 4 spots in the vertical.
Correct.
All right, so
and here comes
I'll publish this again.
here comes Motrell.
Morgan Elliott looked so
Morgan
good
Elliott,
in that last
yeah.
camera.
In the chat, I just added the live results that is updating in real
Great
time.
work. Great work.
So feel free, everyone, click that link,
Third of a
open up
mile.
another tab, see who's coming in. So I guess unofficial results, we have Alex Ricard, Joe Gray, Dan Kurtz, Eddie Owens, Garrett Corcoran is our top 5, all within 30 seconds of each other. Morgan Elliott, 6th place.
Morgan Elliott looked like he had taken some sort of high-level ballerina classes because he looked so smooth dancing through. He danced through that section.
He did look very smooth. So as it lies right now, the 4 spots for the U.S. uphill team will be Joe
Nice
Gray,
work.
Dan Kurtz, Eddie Owens, Garrett
Nice job, Mike.
Corcoran. Of course, they will have to officially accept those
There you go,
team
Chad.
spots.
Yes.
I imagine that is most of the reason why these people are there. But
There goes Chad Hall.
wow, what a race.
That's a great team. That's going to be a very, very strong team.
Oh, wait. Oh my gosh. So I said 32 minutes. Aid Station Fireball said over under 37. Alex Ricard's time was 32:12.
Nice work.
Wow.
Very fast.
There you go, Lee.
They absolutely
Third of a mile.
destroyed. They destroyed our predicted times.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the women end up running.
Aid Station Fireball actually brings out a really good point. Alex Ricard, training out of Squamish, British Columbia, could not be more perfect in terms of trails to train for a race like this.
Yes.
The trails in Squamish, it's like world-class mountain biking, and it's pretty amazing seeing what people ride. And I've done my first ever VK was on a run up in that area, and it was an accidental VK just because that's just where the trail went. We're gonna get audio on our winner, Alex Ricard.
Alex, welcome to the show.
Oh, they're muted.
Yep.
Hey, Alex, could you tell Paul that you're muted?
There you go.
Alex, welcome to the show and congratulations.
Thanks.
What
we were
a
just
run.
saying you're based in Squamish, British Columbia. Talk about how that landscape prepared you for this race.
It was kind of great. Like Squamish is very technical. The whole winter we basically don't really have snow, so I managed to train in that type of terrain for the whole winter. But I was quite surprised all the down after the mid part of the race. So that part I think was quite challenging for me, but I think it was like challenging for everybody. But yeah, a lot of steep terrain in Squamish to train on. So yeah, it was good.
Take us through the opening section of the race on the dirt road. How did you feel about, the opening bit versus getting into the trail?
I was quite surprised actually that nobody wanted to push quite hard on that road section. I was expecting to be more like in the survival mode there, but I was really comfortable. Everybody was like kind of like just looking at each other. And then when we started the climb in the wood, this is where the race kind of started on all those steep section. And like I guess by chance, like I just took the lead in the perfect section where it was super steep on the rock, and I opened the gap. And then all like the up, down, I was like just pushing all the little up that I could. And then I think Joe couldn't like close the gap. And then so, yeah.
Were you planning on making the move there?
No,
From the start, or did you
no, that was like I kind of like end up there. I had the opportunity, I took the lead, and then that was, I guess, like the best section to open the gap, because after that was like just up, down for the whole race, where you basically just kind of like top your speed. You go as fast as you can on the down, and then you kind of recover, and then you just push hard on the gas from a little up section. So that was basically like that all the way to the dirt section at the end here. So yeah.
I think just before the end of the single track, we had a camera on you as you were leading, and you took a little bit of a spill, popped right back up. Were there any other falls out there during the race, or were you able to stay pretty upright?
Yeah, that was the only one.
We just happened to catch it on camera.
Yeah.
You
I was
very
lucky that I had like a little gap. So yeah, I looked bad. I was like, oh shit, he's just there. And then I pushed back on the gas. But yeah, like
Hey, well, you
scratch.
You weren't the only one.
No.
Yeah, I heard behind me, like when I kind of took the lead, we passed through like a big mud section, and I think one of the guy fell off there as well. So those muddy sections were pretty deep. So yeah.
Alex,
So cool.
Talk about your expectations heading into this race. Did you believe that a win today was possible?
Yeah, I didn't come here like thinking like I wanted to win, but I was definitely looking to be on the podium. But like I know Joe Gray is like the guy to beat, and then at the World last year, I was with him like for most of the race, so I knew like I had like a good chance to be close to Joe Gray, and I was like I'm presently in one of my best shape ever, so yeah, I knew I was fit to do well, but I didn't know like if that was like a possibility to win the race. Yeah.
For American viewers out there that might not be as familiar with your background, talk about your career so far in running and just what prepared you for this day.
Like in the past, I did a lot of track, cross country with university, some road races, and then when I moved in Squamish, this is where I kind of like decided to move on the trail, but didn't want to go on the longer race like ultra, so I just stay on the shorter race, kind of like an hour range. So VK and then up and down races was like basically what I wanted to do. Yeah.
Well, Alex, huge congratulations. We have to flip over to the start of the women's race, but
Yeah.
thank you so much for your time. Huge congratulations, and thanks for putting on a show out there.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Congrats.
So we've got the start of the women's VK race here.
All right. And they're off.
They're off.
All right.
Lauren, who do you expect in the lead at the next camera?
I mean, I think we could expect maybe another pack. I don't know if it's going to be, 5 deep or 6 deep like the last one, but definitely Grayson up there because, she said yesterday she just likes to go from the gun and press as hard as she can. So, and I've witnessed that happen, and it's probably going to happen today.
Very cool. Hey, Dan. Good to see you again.
Dan, how are we doing?
Good. Are you feeling good right now? You should be.
Yeah, I feel pretty good. A little cold, kind of starting to rain a little bit, but got some sweats on.
Where'd you make your move? Because we had seen in a few cameras earlier in the race that you were just behind Garrett, maybe just behind Joe Gray. So talk about how the race evolved for you.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think I ran a little hard early, and then I started kind of paying for it. And so I kind of brought it back a little bit and was just like, yeah, I knew the guy who was leading is Canadian, so just didn't care about him that much. Just figured I'd sit in 4th for the US and try to just make the team, and then started feeling pretty good. And then it just started feeling kind of easy through the woods on some of the slower, I guess, rocky bits. So then it was really hard to pass, like as we talked about last night. Super hard to pass, then just like jumped around some people. I was just following like Eddie and Garrett for a little while. Joe and was it Remy who won?
Alex.
Sorry, that's terrible. Alex. And so they were just kind of going away. And so then just kind of gathered myself, tried to feel good running. And then, ended up on some of the slower bits, like jumping around Garrett and Eddie. And there's a real technical bit like we talked about last night just before you come out. And so jumped past Garrett there. And then I think he was kind of feeling the race a little bit in the legs. And so, yeah. But then I realized Joe wasn't even that far, so I should have run a little harder the last couple minutes. And but whatever.
Dan, let's pause just for a second. We'll get some updates on the women's race here. Lauren, what are you seeing?
That looks like Grayson.
I think that is the kit of Grayson Rivers. She did say she was going to be wearing pink shoes, and those appear to be pink shoes.
Yep. Saucony, what is it? The Saucony Endorphin Edge, Brett?
It could be. They have a new model coming out. The name is actually, apologize, I'm forgetting the name, but it's similar to the Endorphin Edge, but without the plate. I know, this is my job. I mean, if anything, I'm probably not even supposed to know the name of that shoe. But
this race is significantly more spread out than the men's race. Grayson has a commanding lead right now.
Yeah, she said she was going to do that yesterday, and here she goes. And I have full faith she's just going to keep doing this.
Is Allie in second there? I can't tell. Or is that Rachel?
There are no Allies in the race today.
Yeah.
No
Allie Mack
No. Allie Mack and Allie Ostrander would
be the auto pit. I forgot about that.
No.
Dan, you got to tell Garrett when you see him at the finish line that I bet on him to win, and he let me down.
You bet on Garrett to win? It's just a bad bet.
That's what most people in the chat were saying as well. Finn, what are you thinking for this ladies' race? Are you going to bet against Grayson?
I got to stay true to my fantasy free trail picks. I have Grayson taking the win here. This is kind of how I expected it to play out. Again, though, I will say, and Dan, I want to ask you about quote unquote home court advantage, because will anything change in the more technical sections of the race? Is Grayson building a lead to maybe relinquish a little bit in those middle miles?
No, Grayson's just the most fit person in the race. She's just going to win because she's the most fit.
Right on.
Like, for sure. Barring catastrophe, she's just a very, very good runner.
Did you feel like this race being in your backyard helped you at all in the later stages?
No, I haven't been out here. I've been running this stuff. No, I definitely noticed like jumping up like parts of the course where you're just like jumping up rocks and stuff, like wasn't as I don't know, wasn't so used to it. It just like zaps the legs so quick. But it flattens out for a little while, so I just kind of eased up there. I think it helps obviously being a little comfortable on rocks and roots, but Grayson's obviously just the best runner, so
Looking so
We
strong.
watched some falls on that one stretch. Did you take a digger?
no falls.
Ah, stayed upright. That's
Wow.
impressive.
What stretch could you guys see?
Bonus points. It was right before you popped out of the single track. It was
Yeah.
relatively flat or little. Garrett went down twice.
I heard him fall behind me. That's just where I passed him.
Yeah.
I definitely ran into a couple trees. I'll say that, but other than that, pretty good.
Just nature's poles keeping you upright.
Yeah, I was meant to wear gloves, but I couldn't. The ones I have, they're in the van and they're covered in diesel, so I decided not to wear those.
Of course, going back to the van life problems. Dan, what was your footwear of choice for today?
I don't know if I'm allowed to fully say. They're like a sky running shoe that Brooks is working on. I think they're coming to market in the next 10 months.
See, this is the wild west of trail running, where
This is the
there
East
are
Coast, right?
it was a metaphor. You can do whatever you want in the footwear world. There are no rules. There are no approved lists.
Exactly.
Dan, you
So
weren't
sharp
wearing wearing those Brooks straps shoes.
They actually need you for photos.
Right.
Sorry.
I've got to do. Apparently, trail is
Photo
big time.
shoot.
I've got to go do photos. So
He's got to go put on the podium
for
shoes,
the
the
time.
Brooks
thanks, guys.
Addiction Walker with the Velcro strap. I think, Finn, that's what you were referring to.
Yes.
So
Sorry to steal Dan away there.
that's all right. For those who are tuning in, we're watching the opening mile and a quarter of the women's race, and we have race leader Grayson Murphy, who has led every single step of this race, and just looks so comfortably in front, just commanding. Grayson's coming off of a 70-minute road half marathon personal best, which punched her ticket to the Olympic trials for the marathon, which is in Orlando next February 24.
I'll note in terms of Grayson's mindset, she did get to preview this course when Tom and I were out flagging it on Thursday, and it was funny because after the most technical spot is when we saw her, and she was like, "That's fun. It's kind of like a little Hobbit trail in there," and she was all happy and smiley. So I'm expecting her to crush the single track as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, I wonder if she's just extending the lead, and then once she has her spot secured, if it's advantageous to, ease off the gas and save yourself for tomorrow, since there's also stiff competition in tomorrow's race. Or she might just do the Grayson thing where she just grinds the whole time because that's what she knows how to do.
Yeah, that is definitely an interesting, I guess, tactic that Grayson gets to try out if she wants to. Is like, oh yeah, I could potentially win this race not going 100%. That's kind of a unique position to be in.
But sometimes also shocking the system helps more the next day. And
Agreed.
if you don't have that muscle soreness, then it being just a back-to-back race, that actually might help her.
Yeah, I mean, going back to the track world, we see people now running pretty fast in the rounds and kind of keeping the engine burning hot going into the finals, because you don't want to change the mindset up too much too, of kind of leaning off the gas. It's hard to flip that switch if you teach yourself, like, I can ease up. It's okay.
Yeah. And she has the fitness right now. So, I think she probably comes with a lot of confidence that, if this is going to be a sub 40-minute race and she just ran 70 minutes, at maybe the same effort, if not a little harder, she's probably feeling pretty good right now.
Yeah,
and confident back tomorrow. Yeah. So it seems like she definitely has some base under her right now.
She's all alone in the camera shot now. This is much different than the men's race, and just kind of shows the kind of pedigree that Grayson Murphy's bringing to this sport.
Such an efficient stride too, by the way, just on a side note, like, just looks like true economy with every step.
And we highlighted how fast that first mile was for the men, and I wouldn't be surprised if this is another ridiculously fast mile for the women. even Grayson and the rest of the field.
Wonder if we'll be
Let's
able to
see who's in
see
second.
here. Yeah, who's here. Yep.
Yeah, Rachel. It's definitely Rachel in the white.
Okay.
Yep, that's Rachel in the white.
Oh, and
24-19.
That's Carly, isn't it? Carly's actually on the
Yeah,
Canadian mountain running team.
The Canadians
Neat,
came to
yeah.
play.
Yeah.
She's training really hard. I've heard from her husband Andy that he's been putting
And
in a
let's
lot
see
of
if
work.
we can see who that is.
oh, that's blurry. Oh, I can't see.
Did you catch the bib?
No.
Did not.
So that's Alex Lawson, who
Yeah.
just went by
Yeah.
Okay.
two
Right
back
on.
there.
I
And that's Megan Lace. No, that's not Megan Lacey. Never mind.
No. And compared to the men's race, this race has some opportunity for women to make a team that haven't yet made a team for Worlds yet. So it'll be cool to see who dukes it out for that spot. Obviously,
absolutely.
Grayson has and well, but Alex missed the spot by one last year, and so maybe she can propel herself.
So it
Yep.
looks like someone in the chat said Emily Lane was in fourth.
All right.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, she's an NCAA, ex-NCAA athlete, or just recently, I think she's at Syracuse, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so she's young, and I know, I want to say her boyfriend is in, maybe you just ran, or he's in the race tomorrow, Mason Copey, who is on the World's team as well.
Okay.
All right.
And I know Katie Regan was up in that area. May have been Sam Lewis, it looks like, was in the top 5. Katie Regan is from PA. She actually has done really well at some European races, including the Masters Mountain Champs last year in Ireland. And I know she's run at Washington before, kind of another transition runner, and she has been completely focused on mountains this year. So we'll see if that pays off now. It looks like certainly it did in that first, because she's got the road speed as well.
We're also getting a report. Taylor Fortnum in 2nd or 3rd place.
Okay. I want to tell a little story about Emily. I was in Crested Butte and saw her and her boyfriend Mason, and they were wearing their Furman stuff because they both went to Furman. And Mason had twisted his ankle or something the weekend before at Pikes Peak, and we were at a trail race in Crested Butte, and he had passed off his bib to Emily to go run, and she was seemingly unprepared and very nervous about just, trail running. So it's cool to see that she's entered this race, and I think that was a couple years back, but they've just embraced it together, which is really neat.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah, she had just taken his bib and we're just gonna, they paid for it, so they were just gonna send it anyways.
Lauren, are you getting a little bit of FOMO watching this race?
More or less, yeah. I think it's just the trade-offs of running NCAA and but I'm happy to, always support, and I love the sport, and I think it being in April was really interesting, and it's just I don't know. It definitely does kind of suck to just watch and not get to go race, but they're putting together a fantastic team, and I'm really excited to see that.
Absolutely. Are you gearing up for an outdoor track season?
I'm actually currently injured, so
Oh no.
Gearing up for a fall season of mountain running, hopefully late summer, early fall. So
Hey, that's an okay pivot to have
Right.
in the back pocket.
Right, and getting all the stoke from this race, and also getting to watch Worlds. So
Yep, definitely.
So I don't know if you want to try and switch to Jim single track.
Yeah.
Yep.
Grayson will be coming through soon. Jim, if you can yell out bib numbers again, that would be great. Because your camera's it's a little funky there in terms of quality.
Maybe,
And-
maybe it's
and I-
foggy down there in the mountains.
Oh, yeah, it's foggy. Yep. Hang on.
All right.
Wait.
Chest
wait.
cam.
here we go.
All right. Here we go, Jim. So I was just talking to Logan. I think it's Diekman, which is Grayson's
partner.
And he was saying she was debating how hard she pushes it today with tomorrow, but her real focus is she wanted to make sure she was first into the single track. That was really, really important to her.
Cool. Well, she definitely did that convincingly.
Mission accomplished there.
Travis in the chat. My alter ego, Jim Single Track.
What a name. What a flex. It's crazy that we got Jim Singletrack as one of the cameramen for this race. I mean, wow. I wish I had a name like that.
And so Jim is actually doing the post-race article.
Oh, we got Grayson coming through.
There we
right
go.
now.
There's Grayson.
Looking great.
And she's still running.
9 o'clock and 30 seconds. Okay. I'm getting a split or between first and second. The track runner in me will always have a watch. And we're always gathering split times. We got to see those gaps.
I think it's going to be at least 90 seconds, maybe even 2 minutes.
Because it was probably 30 seconds. The gap was probably 30 seconds to the end of the road, maybe more, 30 to 45 seconds. Lauren, I'm not sure if you saw, but Grayson went by about 35, 40 seconds ago.
Incredible. Yeah, it looks like she's extended her lead a little bit there.
Yeah, we're about 45 seconds.
Wow. So dominant, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think this is any well, okay, so we're at a minute gap right now. And I don't think this is to say like the women's race is any less deep than the men's. I think this kind of just goes to show how good Grayson is.
Absolutely. I think what's so sweet about this is compared to I think a lot of times these national championship races do turn tactical on the track. And you see like what you saw in the 5K last year at USA's where they quote unquote jog for 2 miles and then run a fast 4:35 or 4:32 split last mile. But here we see at a national championship, someone just dominating and not making it tactical. It's really
Looks
sweet.
like we have Rachel to my check coming through in second.
What's the gap?
Minute and a half.
Yep.
He looks good.
Like 90 seconds.
And that's great. That's Carly.
Grayson has been putting a gap in there.
And then Carly, what was the last name on Carly? Carly Rempel.
Yeah.
In third place.
Yep.
So it was Rachel and Carly.
Is Alex?
Andy Wacker's wife. Or I should say he's her husband. And who that is Alex Lawson.
So Alex is the first one outside looking in right now as it lies.
Did you see a little bit of a grin on her face right now? This is the stuff she gobbles up as a Nordic skier.
Yeah. So Alex is on the hunt.
Yeah, the steeper the better.
Fifth place coming through. Ooh.
2195.
2195 is the big number.
Sarah Hutchings out of Boulder, Colorado, right? Yeah. Okay.
So that would be, and then these are the two on the edge trying to make the team, trying to close that gap.
2223, 2379. 2243.
That is Sam Lewis.
Because she can bike as fast as people can run.
227.
Yeah.
297. 2004.
Laurel Moyer coming through.
All right, Amber. Way to go. Best mile so far. Way to go. Good job.
This is a big pack between like 5 to 15.
Yep.
Place. Still a lot of racing left. Oh, that part's steep. We didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's a great angle. Just to show
right after Jim. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's great perspective.
That's lovely.
You just disappear by going up.
It's so hard to pass on that. Like you can see them bunching up together right there.
And as we can see too, I mean, it's slick, as noted with the falls in the men's race.
Way to go.
For all the trail building nerds out there, some of the stonework that these crews have done in New England is truly impressive. If you go back to that view,
You can turn back to that view, but it's phenomenal to watch them go up the mountain.
Yeah, what do they use? Just dynamite? Blow the steps into the hillside?
Way to go.
They use drills. They use like hand drills to break the granite into steps,
Wow.
or they'll just find the right rocks. But yeah, there's a great perspective, Jim, if you can stay on that.
Travis says stairs
Another
to
Lord of
Mordor,
the Rings
spot on.
reference.
So just behind that rock too is probably what is a bear cave. I don't think the bear's in there right now, but there's a big giant cave just off to the right of the trail there.
Oh, great.
Something light.
Like-
It's
Only in
don't worry,
Germany.
they're not bears like you guys get bears. They're black bears.
Hey, Kristen.
Yeah, those are the only kind of bears that I'm used to.
Way to go.
Yeah, this is a great shot just to see how hard the course is. And like, that's the majority of what the trail section looks like out there. What we've gotten to see from our point of view are all the fastest, most runnable spots.
Hmm.
There's
Yeah,
three
so that-
different sections that kind of look like that. Like you've got totally runnable sections, and then you have like three nasty climbs like that one just shown.
Yeah.
I think it's the most maybe not the most demoralizing, but a very demoralizing part of vertical racing. And is you think you're doing well and you're running again, then you just get hit again with another walking section or a very steep section or some stair climbing, and you just have to stay in it,
Yeah.
I also want to highlight how impressive it is to be able to, as we saw the leader and a couple of the top guys fall, get right back up and just keep in the same mindset. I think on the track you see falls all the time, and sometimes they just lay there, and
That's a great point.
You can't see, and I honestly, to their, it doesn't make sense sometimes because the race goes on without you. But the fact that this is a type of
Way to
race
go,
where
Ellie.
you have to
Good
be
job.
determined and have enough determination to just pop right back up
Yeah, you don't even
and
have
not
a
let that
second to
phase
think
you. It's
about
just
it.
so impressive.
Yeah.
It's like in hockey when you have a
No, yeah, I
upper
mean,
body
the
injury
winner,
and they keep playing.
the winner fall in the last. Yeah, the winner take a fall in the last, half mile, and still pull it off is just, you don't see that on the track really,
Good job.
not very
Yeah.
often at least.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. It's like a whole different sport. Hey,
Brett, should we check in with Patrick?
Oh, I was going to check the
Yeah.
pat cam. I was also going to see. Oh, yeah. Here's our pat cam. The other thing I was thinking of doing, just while we had a sec, we could just recap the top 10 men's. I can pull up the live results on our screen
yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Let's just do a quick minute. Yeah, there we go. So this is our top 20 on the men's side. Much
Is
faster
someone coming
than we
through?
thought. It
I
might
believe
be-
I think that's men in the back of the men's race coming through.
Good.
Yeah, and for those looking to see the results, if you go to the sunapeescramble.com website, there is a live results page, and links to these results are there as well.
Just posted it in the chat as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
But so Alex Ricard from Squamish, British Columbia was our winner, followed by Joe Gray, Dan Kurtz, Eddie Owens, and Garrett Corcoran. And as it lies right now, those four will be the four on the U.S. mountain running team.
And still some racing. It'll be interesting to see how many of these athletes repeat tomorrow and what their performances look like. Like, is Garrett Corcoran making two teams? Is Joe Gray? How does Morgan Elliott do? He just narrowly missed that spot in the VK. How does he do in the up down tomorrow?
Absolutely.
A lot of interesting carryover storylines.
Yeah, I think Morgan can be interesting tomorrow since he was already on the up down team at Thailand.
Yep.
And if on that results page it said their pace was low 8-minute pace and their average pace, and so and we've seen the terrain that they're doing this on, and that is just incredibly impressive to me.
Yeah, they're absolutely flying.
Yeah,
I think
Yeah,
it
and in
also
terms
shows
of-
like what they were probably doing in that first mile too. Like that's
Right.
crazy to think how low that was to get to 8-minute average.
Just for context for the folks in the comments, we are our current camera with Pat this is the camera for the incoming lead women's pack. So we're expecting Grayson here momentarily, followed by, I'm assuming, Rachel. So just for context.
Oh, I do love that about these races, getting the whole spread of ages and types of runners, and yeah, you just get the diversity on the trail, and it's very rare that you see elite races combined with just the whole race together, and that's, I think, really cool.
One of the unique and very exciting parts of trail racing is there's a lot of lanes.
Yes.
Yeah, it doesn't fill up in 8 spots
Yeah.
or 12 spots if you're lucky enough to be on a waterfall start.
I wanted to clarify, that was Gar Corcoran who was 5th?
Correct.
Correct. Okay, because I thought what I could do for those joining late is just so people can see that.
Kurtz, Owens, Corcoran. Correct. Yes.
Great.
How many teams has Joe made? What is this now?
I think
a lot.
A lot, because he's made NACAC teams. He's made, I believe, I can't remember if he did a World Cross team, but he's definitely made NACAC both cross country and mountain. And then he's been making mountain teams since 2006, I believe.
Yeah, and I think Andy Wacker yesterday said that, like, of the U.S. mountain running champs in the last 10 years, Andy had won 1 and Joe had won the rest. And I know not every single one of those U.S. mountain champs was for a team, but in terms of just U.S. titles, Joe might be one of the more decorated runners in the sport in terms of just pure USA championships.
Yeah, I may be wrong, but I feel like the last U.S. champ that wasn't Joe or Andy was possibly Max King at Cremore in 2011. And that, then World certainly went well for him after that. So
what's pretty amazing is that both Joe Gray and Max King are competing this weekend. I mean, Joe raced the vertical. Max is going to race the up down tomorrow. But, we're talking results from 2011, and both of them are still racing at the top of their game. That is incredible.
It is incredible, yeah.
Right, yeah. This just shows, I think, maybe the trail has possibly more longevity than road and track, because you can just stay on top like they have demonstrated for so many years.
I think there's got to be something to just the different muscle movements as opposed to, so I mean, most of track, there's different events, but it's very repetitive in terms of the motion of flat and fast, or at least on the mountains, it's much more engaging.
I think what is really important too for perspective, because someone could be saying, oh, well, that just means there's no competition. Joe was world champion in 2016 and 2019. So it's not like he slowed down, as the teams have gotten more competitive. He's raised his game too, so it's going to be exciting tomorrow to see what Max does. Max had a comment joking about I think he was joking about the downhill course, where he was just talking about, like, he's so looking forward to it. I'm really excited to see how he does tomorrow.
One thing I'm curious about, so with this main camera here, we're expecting Grayson Murphy coming through any moment. When the men's race came through here, we did see a little bit of carnage. We saw some falls. This is incredibly technical terrain. I'll be curious to see how Grayson handles this, how the women's secondary pack handles this. This is a tough section, of course. This is true New England mountain racing at its finest.
We're going to get a shout from Max King and Chad Hall when they are approaching, so it should be any minute.
So Chad Hall is elected to cool down, running back down the mountain. That was one of the main questions from yesterday was, do you take the lift down and potentially freeze, but save your legs for the descent, or keep everything warm, run back down the mountain? Chad Hall's going for the extended cool down today.
I made the mistake of doing that after a VK and I paid for it a little bit.
It's a big ask on the body.
I think the down beats you up more than the up.
I think so too.
Yeah, you realize your quads are just taking all of it.
That is one of the things I do love about the sport, though, is that, like, we've got someone like Max King who's competing tomorrow. He's, like, out here on the course helping give updates for the races today. Like, Max.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Max is a great ambassador for the sport. I mean, he just is like all about. He just wants to see good competition, and he's not going to be the type that's just going to go hang out in the hotel room the whole day before the race because he doesn't want to miss anything.
Something for the audience to remember too. For the women, it's only 3 U.S. women that make the team. Allie McLaughlin's already got a bye for World Championships, just as we focus on this last pack coming in.
Right.
Just to acknowledge folks in the chat for context, during the men's race earlier, we had a camera trained on this on Pat's camera at this moment. It's important to us, and I think for the viewing audience, to do the same for the lead women's race. We want to make sure we don't miss Grayson's move through this section as well as the rest of the lead pack. And we do have the men's results below just to provide context for those that weren't there for that, and we'll do the same thing for the women's race as well.
Careful.
Yep, absolutely. I am a proponent of the country that gets the winning spot from the previous worlds should get the additional team slot, like how it is on the track in World Championships.
Great race.
So I'm maybe I'll get that petition going for US mountain running. So like, you know, the uphill team on the women's side, they should get a 5th spot because Allie Mack gets the extra spot, but it shouldn't take away from this race today. So let's see some change, because that's what you see in track, you know, like US men oftentimes sends 4 to the World Championships in the 100, almost every Worlds, because they have the previous winner and then 3 more.
You know, one thing to point out, just to provide some context for how fast Grayson and this lead women's pack are going, they started 45 minutes after some of these men that are going through. And, you know, watch how these runners are navigating these rocks versus how Grayson and the lead pack navigates it. It's going to be an interesting contrast.
Good job. Good job.
So,
what are you guys doing?
So while we're waiting for Grayson to come through, I want to give a huge shout out to all of our camera people that are currently standing in the rain to do all this. Super appreciated to all of you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the large camera that everyone's watching right now is awaiting the women's race leader.
It's probably, I don't know, half mile from the finish.
Yeah, about half a mile or a little less. Yeah. You point probably 3 minutes to the finish or so, 3 or 4.
Yeah, let's note that the rain makes those routes ridiculously sketchy.
And these slippery rocks.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Is it starting to rain out there?
Yeah,
yes,
it's a little
it
bit
is
wet,
raining. Not like downpour, but just kind of
just
very
a
windy and raw.
Little teaser of what's to come tomorrow, because it sounds like the gnarly weather is going to come into play for tomorrow's up down race.
Oh, wow. Yeah, also highlight that everyone out here is doing the same course, you know.
Yeah,
it's elites and people right now all navigating the same terrain and same conditions and pushing themselves to their
All right,
limits,
we got the
which is really
ladies
neat.
coming up.
Here comes first,
Who we got?
Oh, Grayson coming through, looking strong.
So fast.
Wow.
Look at her flying through there.
Unfazed.
Looking so strong.
Wow.
Incredible.
Grayson.
Her and Morgan,
Doing
I
her
think,
thing.
looked the best moving through that terrain.
Pretty big gap between her and the rest.
Yeah, so
At the last checkpoint, it was about 90 seconds.
90 seconds. On our live, I had her coming through around 2:18:08 on our live stream here.
Okay. So we're approaching 30 seconds already. Yeah, it's just amazing how quickly Grayson's been able to transition from a full road half marathon block up to a technical uphill race like this, and already just having the technical legs under her and being able to just dance across the rocks so efficiently. Yeah, it's just incredible.
She's one of the most versatile runners in the sport.
Multi-sport athlete.
I was going to say that. And very good NCAA steepler. and Olympic trial steepler. So
Yeah, Grayson almost made the
one-
Olympic team.
Yeah, one or
Just
two
last
spots off.
trials. She was very close. I
Yeah.
think she got 5th in the
Yeah.
final. Almost punched a ticket to Tokyo. So like that's the kind of caliber of athlete that we have the pleasure of watching. Because women's steeplechase
Right.
is one of the greatest like US track events right now.
Yes.
And
Very
someone in the
dominant on
which
the
is
world scale.
someone in the live stream does someone remember what Grayson calls it when she braids her hair? Did she do there's got to be someone out there who remembers it. When she does
I don't-
almost ponytails, she has a name for them, and I forget what it's called.
Oh, are
It's
they
what-
the space buns?
Yes,
Space buns.
I don't know if
Space
she's
buns.
doing space buns today. I couldn't tell.
It was looking more like
I got you,
fast
Paul.
braids than
So-
space buns.
Hey, just for
It's windy.
Grayson is
Pioneer.
adding to her lead right now. It's now at least a 2-minute
Here
gap.
she comes.
She's hitting the finish, I think.
Main camera, she's hitting the finish right now. Can you switch over finish
We're
We're
line?
switching.
All right. So here she comes. She's coming in right now. That's her single track.
Wow. Let's go, Grayson.
Beast.
Oh, that's awesome.
Absolutely dominant.
Grayson Murphy, our women's champ in the vertical mountain running championships
And if
in
you're
dominant
wondering,
fashion.
there's a ton of people in here. They're cheering, but they're currently inside just because it's nasty.
35:47 unofficial time for Grayson
Amazing.
Murphy.
And we're looking at currently at
Also-
least a 2-minute 40-second gap right now. So in that last section, she really put some time on the chase pack.
That slots
wonder if,
Grayson in 13th overall.
Wow.
Just in
Oh
front
my
of
God.
Mike Popejoy and Chad Hall.
She
That's
looks so good.
Oh,
incredible.
That is an
That
incredible
shows
run.
her fitness. You know,
That is amazing.
absolutely outstanding. Yeah.
And then she's going to come back tomorrow and be strong too. That's what's going to be really interesting to see.
That is mind-blowingly fast.
Yeah, she's crazy fit right now.
I've
Wow.
had the honor of being dropped by her on many workouts at Liberty Park here in Salt Lake City.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't expect anything less than you getting dropped on a workout by
Every
Grayson. Wow.
She's so kind about dropping you too. She's like, I'm just gonna go. You're like, okay, go.
I'm like,
Please.
okay, go ahead.
Bye now.
Go for it.
This is
Are
is
we
at least
approaching
Oh,
this is a this is a 4-minute gap currently. So for viewers out there, we are waiting for the second place.
I think we got our
female
next
runner.
lady coming through
Okay.
Okay,
shortly.
I'm very curious.
Yep, here
to
she
see.
comes. Rachel.
Rachel.
in second.
Rachel, to my check,
Just move
Also looking
Bye.
great.
through.
runner for Merrill,
Yeah.
navigating the rocks.
And I know
and the
technical
roots.
trails aren't her favorite thing, but she's really embracing that. Yeah. I know she's explained to me that she's had a learning curve with the technicality of trails, but she looked like she absolutely just flew through that section.
All right, and third we got Alex. Woohoo!
Got it.
Alex has moved up.
20-second gap.
Way to go, Alex. Woo!
Alex is overtaken to third.
And she mentioned yesterday that
Also,
she's been running only for
right
like
next
2 or
to each
3
other
weeks
on-
after ski season.
Yeah. Hey, Paul, is it possible to get our finish line cam back?
Do you see another?
I see a second one, but I think we're just looking at a chair. Oh, there we go. We got a little bit more coming in.
Likely seeing Rachel here any minute coming through in second place.
Got an additional finish cam.
35:47 for Grayson. That's an amazing
An
performance.
outstanding.
Yeah, for anyone
Yeah.
who took the under on 38 minutes, congratulations to you. Just send your bank account details to Finn and he will pay out.
Wow. I think
Nice work.
who knows, maybe her getting that OTQ in those bad conditions she was mentioning.
Pick your favorite route.
The course, it looks like that course is getting sloppier. The weather is definitely changing.
We got
Yeah.
Carly in 4th coming up.
All right, we're going to switch back to the Pat Cam. Carly in 4th right now,
Awesome.
navigating the final technical bits of the course.
Laurel
5th place, right
in
on.
Hot on her
5th.
heels.
And
6th.
Not sure who 6th is, but
Did you get that
sure
bib
it's Big
number?
Pat.
Switching back to the finish line, Cam.
Rachel is coming through right now.
All right, I think I see Rachel's white singlet.
This is Rachel Tomczyk. We had her on the athlete pre-race interview series yesterday, based out of Flagstaff, Arizona. Had U.S. team ambitions, fulfilled them today. Looking great.
Yep, the goal was to come in, get that U.S.
Yay.
spot.
Takes care of business.
So
Love
that
it.
is
Another
second,
one. Critical
second place in
team.
the ladies' field. Rachel, to my check.
What was her time? Did you get a time there?
I'm waiting for it to update.
Okay.
We're looking 40 minutes and 28 seconds for Rachel.
Also
Alex
smoking fast.
Lawson is coming in right now.
And Alex Lawson for 3rd. Just 3 weeks into the running training
the
block,
season.
coming off of the Nordic
Nice work,
ski
nice work.
season.
Said she was just doing this for fun.
But maybe getting a little more serious about it.
Maybe.
Just maybe.
Hopefully this gives her some confidence that she is indeed one of the best U.S. trail runners.
Yeah, Alex is going to have a long talk with her Nordic coach to talk about what
Great job.
Worlds and whatnot's going to be looking for the
Mile.
rest of the year.
Nice job, man.
I think one of the themes so far is that you can be a multi-sport athlete. You can be this well-rounded athlete and still be successful here. You don't necessarily have to be a specialist. You can have a ski
Nice job,
season,
nice job.
then you can have this running season,
Moving
and it
well.
converts pretty well.
Yeah, especially for an uphill
Right,
race like
fitness
this,
is
you know. Oh, took the words right out of my mouth.
Toughness is also just it expands to every sport, so they'll just rise to the top.
Now we
So-
just got to get these cyclers in here.
So for this past month or 6 weeks, Grayson Murphy had been training out of Flagstaff. Same with Rachel. So we kind of got like a Flagstaff one too.
Oh, we got another. Is this 5th or 6th place? 5th place? Carly?
I believe so. That is Carly coming in. And
There we go, Carly.
link to the
2297,
live
yeah.
chat.
So a bit about Alex Lawson. She finished 3rd last year at this event, and so just narrowly missing a spot to the U.S. team. It's great to see some redemption here this
Yep,
time
and
around.
For those who are tuning in on for the women's race, it's just top 3, not top 4, because Allie McLaughlin has one of those spots secured by being the reigning world champion in the uphill race. So as the results show, it's Grayson Murphy, Rachel Tomajczak, and Alex Lawson who are eligible to accept their spots for the world's team.
And yeah, Paul, I don't know if you're out there listening, but if possible, we'd love to get an interview with Grayson or Alex or Rachel or any of the top finishers to talk through their performances.
Yes, and if you have questions, throw
please
them in the chat.
Drop them in the chat.
Yep. Let us know what you want to know. We will try our best to get a hold of these finishers, ask them a couple questions about about how it really all went down out there. Always fun to get a different perspective.
Brett, do you want to put the top 3 into the
yeah,
below
let me
the
see
cam?
let me see if I remember how to do that.
Also to highlight maybe a detail that could have been a factor and should be noted with Grayson's time is that the men had already run through and probably chunked up the course pretty good. So I think, in cross country, when you run after the men's race, you do end up having a harder time because the course is muddier, it's slippier, more slippery, maybe rocks.
That's a great point. And a more crowded course too.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Tom said you were mentioning something. Tom is doing the filming now. I'm just back at the computer.
Gotcha.
Now, so.
Could we? Yeah, we wanted to get, if possible, a finish line interview with Grayson or Alex or Rachel.
Got it.
Let me see. Yeah, let me see whether I can swing that after they get some warm clothes. Because I'm outside. Yeah, I'll be right back.
All right. Please let me know if I spelled any names wrong.
I think you got it.
Looks like
I
you
mean,
did.
yeah. I mean, Mavis Beacon has taught me pretty well in the realm of touch typing, but you know, I'm not perfect.
Yeah, Lauren, I thought you made a great point there about Grayson and Rachel and Alex running these times on a much more chopped up course, and then having to obviously navigate the back half of the men's race too. So just a lot more obstacles, and to still register those times is so impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. On an already technical course, just a whole nother factor there.
Absolutely. Yeah. And for those who are just tuning in, well, bummer for you because you guys missed some amazing races. But our women's podium was Grayson Murphy, Rachel Tomacek, and Alex Lawson. The way that podium kind of panned out was interesting because Grayson was just dominant running from start to finish. Rachel stayed kind of squarely in that second, third place type spot. And then Alex was on the outside looking in at the second checkpoint that we saw her go through. And then as we got closer to the Pat Cam, she was the one in third, had made the pass. So Alex did what we said would be very difficult in that she was able to make a pass on the technical Rudy wet single track.
Yep.
So yeah, what a
Yeah, you can't sleep on her ability to climb.
doing
And
it
also
the hard way.
More or less home field. She knows these trails and how technical they can be.
Yeah, definitely. Because there's absolutely something to just knowing exactly how hard you can like press down on the rock before your shoe gives. I think we're queuing up an interview with our.
Right, I was going to say, if you can switch to Grayson, she's here, and she's being a good sport because it is freezing right now.
Yeah,
Grayson,
we'll try and keep
warm?
it brief. I think we got to get the headphones on her first.
Yep.
So she can hear
I'm
us.
ready.
All right.
Grayson, congratulations.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Wow. That was so impressive to watch.
So
Thank
dominant.
you. That was fun.
Yeah, I would love for you to take us through the stages of the race. You know, we were able to see the opening mile on the dirt road, and then, you know, it went dark for a little bit in the single track, but just kind of take us through the start and how you were feeling, you know, kind of seemingly running by yourself from the get-go.
Yeah, I think I kind of thought that might be the case, but I just wanted to push the flat part. I know that's where you can pick up a lot of time, so I wanted to push that. And then once you get to the single track, it's a little hard to put more time. So that was the plan. And
Oh no, our Grayson cam cut out.
Oh no.
No.
I was so into that day.
I know. Okay, we're gonna hopefully be working to get her back as soon as possible. I'm gonna switch to the finish line cam 2 just because I don't want my face to be giant. We are working as quick as possible to get this going back up.
It could be the case that because there are more people at the finish line there's competition for cell phone coverage, and just that the feed is slower.
Well, and with the degrading weather and the additional cloud cover. Okay, we're getting the finish line cam back live.
Hey.
Okay, Grayson, thank you.
Yeah,
You were taking us through the single track portion. How you wanted to make sure that you had a little bit of a buffer. Going into the single track.
It was nice to get beat the rain to the single track because it's a little more sheltered in there. So it was a little better running than this on top. So
Yep, absolutely. Well, I guess we'll be the ones to let you know that you actually did extend your lead over the course of the single track section.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's fun
By
to
a
know. I was wondering. Really good to
When,
know.
Yeah.
when you hit the single track, you had a 90-second gap, and then after that last technical section before the finish, you opened up a 4-minute gap. So you put 2 minutes and 30 seconds on the field, which is just an incredible performance.
Oh, thank you. I did not know that, but that is good to know. I always running from the front. Sometimes you never know if people are right behind you and about to catch you. So you feel like you can't let off the gas.
Yeah, there's no time to look back in a race like that, especially because you look back and you can only see like 10 feet back anyways,
Yeah.
because of how twisty and turny everything is.
Uh-huh.
How did you feel about, in terms of the footing? Like, were you able to stay upright the whole time? We saw in the men's race there was a couple falls, but you looked, the section we saw you through the technical, you were moving so fast across just what was then wet rocks. Take us through that.
I felt like it looked slippery, but it didn't feel as slippery as it looked. Maybe it was my great shoes, so thank you, Saucony, for some good shoes. And
Right on.
yeah, I just was like conscious that it could be slippery, but just try and push and watch. I'm stepping some falls today, luckily, and hopefully we can continue the streak of no falls tomorrow.
Yes. Yep. Definitely. Some quick recovery.
How does
to
it
do.
feel now?
How does it what?
How does it feel now to make another Worlds team, especially after, last year and backing out of going to Thailand to preserve your health and now be healthy and poised for another Worlds?
With the hood on.
It's okay. Yeah, it's good to finally have it after last year, and the pressure off tomorrow too. So tomorrow just go out and have more fun, and no pressure to make the team. Probably those top 4 spots and get to double at Worlds too.
Incredible.
Grayson, one thing I was curious about, talk us
Absolutely.
through the
I'm stoked for
psychology.
that.
Oh, sorry. Grayson, if you don't mind, talk us through the psychology of leading this race from start to finish. Is that a place that you always try to find yourself in? Are you comfortable in that position? Do you enjoy that position? Do you prefer to let the race play out and be in a pack?
Yeah, it's kind of funny for trail races. I much prefer to be lead wire to wire, but I would never say that about a track or a race. So I think it just when on single track, for me at least, it's a lot better to have like a clear path in front of you and be able to see where you're going. So I'd much rather not be in a pack on a single track.
I think over the
Cool. How does this race feel in the context of all of the success you've had in this sport? We were remarking on how it's just an incredible time. I think Brett said it was 13th overall. Where do you put this race in the context of all the other success you've had in your running career?
This is up there. It feels good after last. It just feels like a long time coming and something I've been like really trying to work towards. And this is my first VK in the US. The other ones I've done have been in Europe, so it's fun to win one on US soil and be the second ever VK champ to Lauren. So, that's pretty cool too, and be one of the first to run the race and win it.
What does the rest of your day look like? Talk about what recovery looks like between now and the starting line tomorrow for the classic race.
I'm gonna get off the top of this mountain pretty quick. it's pretty nasty up
Just let
there.
you go.
Yeah. And then just hang out the rest of the day. I don't feel too bad. VK doesn't beat up the body too much, so hopefully just take in will be good for tomorrow.
Cool. Well, Grayson,
Awesome.
thanks again. Thanks for your time. We really appreciate it.
Yep. Go get warm.
Get warm.
Wow, what incredible races.
Yeah,
Who
really.
do we have on deck?
Possibly Rachel or
Are
Alex.
we getting Rachel? Yeah.
I mean, what an awesome team set up for vertical again as a team,
Yeah.
and we've got Allie, Grayson, Rachel. That's a stellar team.
We're sending a unit of a squad. This is so cool.
Yeah, the U.S. is not messing around in the vertical division.
I love that.
Paul or Tom or whoever is
Yeah,
on
that's
the
incredible.
finish line camera, could we get a spot again on the men's and women's races coming through?
So sorry to interrupt real quick, guys. I'm going to shut down this camera because we're actually going to do awards at the bottom. It's getting really naggy here, so we're kind of shutting everything down at the finish line.
Gotcha. Okay.
So thanks all for joining. And I don't know. I don't have anything else to say. But yeah, so we're just, yeah. I wish I had something else to say as I'm watching the water drip on my computer. So yeah, so we're going to shut down. And thanks everyone for watching this. I hope you'll join again tomorrow. We will have more coverage. There's no single track, so we hope to have another 5 to 10 court again tomorrow. And thanks so much, Brett, Finn, Lauren, for being on this. This was just phenomenal to have you in the coverage.
Thank you, Paul.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks,
This has
listeners.
been a blast.
Thanks, viewers.
Great racing. Thanks for everyone to watch. We'll see you again tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Thanks, guys. See ya.